And if you're new here, allow me to introduce myself. I'm your host, and this is our channel, where we unlock the hidden stories behind the places, people and things that make our world so fascinating. Tonight, we are transported to the heart of Japan, to a serene landscape of towering cedar trees and misty mountains. Our destination is a Zen Monastery, a place where time seems to stand still, and the whispers of ancient wisdom echo through the ages. Nestled amidst this tranquil setting is a weathered wooden gate. It is unassuming, yet holds within it the promise of a journey that will challenge our perceptions and touch our souls. As we step through this gateway, we leave behind the clamor of the outside world and surrender ourselves to the rhythm of a life less ordinary. The story of this monastery is deeply intertwined with the life of a remarkable individual, a man who dared to challenge societal norms and seek enlightenment beyond the confines of tradition. His name was Dogen, and he is revered as the patriarch of Japanese Zen Buddhism. In the 13th century, Japan was a land of contrasts, where the elegance of court life coexisted with the brutality of war-torn streets. Young Dogen, born into samurai nobility, found himself torn between the expectations of his social standing and a deep yearning for something more, something beyond the fleeting pleasures of worldly pursuits. He yearned for inner peace, for a deeper understanding of life's profound mysteries. And so, he embarked on a journey to China, the cradle of Zen Buddhism, where he studied under the most esteemed masters, absorbing their teachings and honing his meditative practices. Upon his return to Japan, he established monasteries, each becoming a beacon of Zen philosophy, a sanctuary where weary souls could find solace. One such place was the monastery we now call home. Here, the spirit of Dogen lives on through the silent routines of the monks, their every action a testament to his unwavering commitment to simplicity, mindfulness, and the relentless pursuit of enlightenment. But what does this place look like? How do its monks live? What secrets lie within its ancient walls? Let's continue our journey and find out. Imagine a world painted in hues of gray, where every object finds its place in an intricate dance of balance and harmony. This is the world of the monastery. The monks, clad in simple gray robes, their shaved heads a symbol of their dedication, move through the day with a quiet grace. Their steps echo softly on the wooden floors, their voices hushed as they recite ancient sutras. The rooms are Spartan, devoid of ornamentation, save for a few essential items that speak of a life lived in solitude. Scrolls bearing wise sayings serve as constant reminders of the teachings they hold dear. Ink-painted landscapes invite contemplation. A worn meditation cushion awaits each monk, a silent invitation to moments of introspective stillness. As the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the courtyard, the monks gather. They bow to one another, their eyes meeting in a silent acknowledgement of shared purpose. Together, they partake in the evening meal, a simple affair of rice and vegetables, each bite consumed in mindful silence. Afterwards, they disperse to their rooms, the night settling around them like a soft blanket. Some engage in manual labor, their calloused hands finding solace in the rhythmic tasks that bring a sense of calm. Others lose themselves in the written word, deciphering ancient texts that hold the secrets of the universe. As the moon climbs higher in the inky sky, the sound of chanting fills the air. The monks, their voices blending in perfect harmony, create an ethereal soundscape that seems to lift the soul. Finally, as the night deepens, they retire, seeking rest on their thin mats, their breaths mingling with the whisper of the wind through the trees. Sleep comes not as an escape, but as a moment of peaceful transition before the cycle begins anew. And so our exploration continues, revealing a world where simplicity is paramount, where silence speaks volumes, and where the rhythm of life is dictated by the natural world. But there's more to this place than meets the eye. Within its serene boundaries lies a profound philosophy, a way of life that challenges conventional thinking and invites us to see the world in a new light. Join us as we delve deeper into the heart of the monastery, uncovering the secrets that have made this place a sanctuary of peace and enlightenment for centuries. In the next episode, we'll uncover the hidden depths of the rock gardens, those enigmatic landscapes of Zen, and explore their profound symbolism. We also witness the transformative power of the monastery, as we learn about the samurai who traded their swords for meditation cushions. finding inner strength where they once sought martial prowess. Here's what you would learn if you spent a week as a monk at a monastery high in the mountains. In the heart of the mountains, tucked away in a valley of ancient pines and weathered stones, there exists a monastery where life is measured by the subtle shifts of light and shadow. It is a place where the relentless march of time slows to a halt, where the cacophony of the world fades into a distant memory, and where each day unfolds at the pace of nature itself. Here's what you would learn if you spent a week as a monk in this secluded mountain sanctuary. You would learn the language of silence. The wooden clapper strikes the bell at 4 in the morning, its deep bronze tone rolling across the mountain valley like a gentle earthquake. Inside the monastery, on sleeping mats no thicker than your thumb, dozens of monks stir from their brief rest. There are no pillows here, no blankets beyond a single thin covering. The wooden floor beneath their mats is hard and cold, and in winter, frost sometimes forms on the inside of the paper screens that separate the sleeping hall from the mountain air. Imagine yourself rising in this darkness, your bones aching from the unyielding surface, your breath visible in small puffs of vapor. The monk beside you moves with practiced silence, rolling his sleeping mat with the precision of someone who has done this exact motion thousands of times. Every fold must be perfect, every edge aligned. It isn't mere tidiness. This is meditation in motion, the transformation of a simple task into an act of spiritual discipline. You would struggle with this first ritual? Your fingers, stiff from cold and unfamiliar with such exacting attention to detail, would fumble with the mat. The monk supervising would watch you with patient eyes, saying nothing, but his presence would remind you that here there is no room for casual approximation. Every action, no matter how small, is an opportunity for mindfulness or a missed chance for awakening. The sleeping hall empties in perfect silence. No shuffling feet, no whispered conversations, no clearing of throats. These monks have learned to move like water, flowing from one space to another, without disturbing the profound quiet that permeates every corner of the monastery. You would learn the virtue of patience. The washroom is a space of stark simplicity. Rough-hewn stone meets earthen floor, and the only ornamentation is the worn wooden trough that runs along the far wall. Above it hangs a single lantern, its soft glow illuminating the faded murals on the ceiling depicting scenes from ancient Buddhist scriptures. Here in the soft pre-dawn light, you would witness an array of ages and appearances. Some monks, young and vibrant, their faces smooth and unlined, stand patiently in the queue, their youthful energy bubbling just beneath the surface. Others, their features etched with the passage of time, their bodies stooped with age, move with a slow grace born from years of quiet contemplation. As you move through this space, you would realize that patience is not merely a virtue, it is a way of life. The water is cold, not cool, but genuinely cold, drawn from mountain springs that never warm beyond the temperature of stone. There are no mirrors here, no private stalls, no hurried splashing and rushing. Each monk moves with deliberate slowness, cupping the icy water in his hands, bringing it to his face with the same reverence you might reserve for handling something precious and fragile. The water, far from being a mundane necessity, becomes a conduit to mindfulness. Each splash, each drop, is a reminder to be present, to fully engage with the simplest of tasks. In this shared space, differences fade into insignificance. Rank, age, and individual struggles fall away, leaving only the quiet dignity of those united in their daily ritual. You would stand there, enveloped in the quiet hum of shared humanity, understanding that true patience isn't just about enduring, it's about embracing the rhythm of existence in all its phases. You would learn the art of focus. In the grand hall where meals are served, you would witness an assembly of weathered faces, each a testament to years spent in quiet contemplation. At first, the austerity of it all might seem jarring, the rough texture of the wooden bowls and the absence of silver cutlery. But as you settle into your place on the floor, cross-legged and in silence, you begin to understand the deeper significance of these austere surroundings. The food itself is a lesson in focus. Plain rice and seasonal vegetables, sometimes a bit of fruit, appear in precise portions on rough pottery. There are no condiments, no spices, just the pure essence of flavor, uncomplicated and grounding. The act of eating becomes a meditation. Each grain of rice, each leaf of vegetable is savored, not just for its taste, but for the journey it has undertaken to reach your bowl. You would recall the countless hands that have nurtured these provisions. The farmers who have tilled the soil, the merchants who have transported the goods, the cooks who have prepared the meal. In this moment of quiet consumption, you would connect with the world around you in a profound way. The absence of distraction allows you to truly appreciate the gift that each bite represents. The gift of nourishment, the gift of community, the gift of life itself. The monastic day unfolds in cycles of work and study, punctuated by moments of solitude and shared prayer. Throughout, the principle of focus remains constant. Whether you are sweeping the courtyard, tending to the herb garden, or engaged in the quiet study of ancient texts, your attention is your most valuable tool. Distractions are not banished, but acknowledged and gently redirected. The art of focus, you would learn, lies not in the absence of distractions, but in the continuous choice to return to the task at hand with a calm and open mind. You would learn the importance of letting go. Your week as a monk culminates in a ceremony both ancient and deeply moving. It is a practice known as sand meditation, an intricate ritual designed to cultivate not just focus, but also acceptance and above all, letting go. Before you lies a tray filled with colored sand, each grain meticulously arranged in a mandala of intricate design. Holding a small brush in your hand, you begin to trace the patterns, your touch feather light, your movements slow and deliberate. With each stroke, you lose yourself in the rhythm of creation, the repetitive motions becoming a form of meditation. But this intense focus is soon challenged. A sudden gust of wind disturbs the balance of your creation, sending a ripple of movement through the mandala. Your initial reaction is one of frustration, a desire to regain control, to set things right. Yet you pause, take a deep breath, and choose a different path. Instead of fighting the disturbance, you incorporate it into your meditation, letting the wind's touch become part of the design. This moment of surrender, of acceptance, brings a profound sense of peace. You realize that resisting the inevitable is futile and often causes unnecessary suffering. By learning to let go, to accept the impermanence of even the most carefully crafted creations, you discover a new source of strength and serenity. And as the final stroke of your brush completes the meditation, you are left not with a perfect mandala, but with a heart full of acceptance and an understanding that sometimes the most beautiful art emerges from the interplay of order and chaos. As your week draws to a close, you carry with you more than just memories. You bring back the lessons of patience, focus, and acceptance. Lessons that resonate not just within the tranquil walls of the monastery, but in the bustling marketplace of life. The mountains stand tall, silent sentinels guarding the secrets of the ages. The monastery nestled in their embrace is a testament to the power of simplicity. A sanctuary where the clamor of the world gives way to the quiet wisdom of the ages. As you descend from the mountains, the lessons echoing in your heart, you carry a piece of the tranquility with you, a reminder that amidst life's complexities, true peace often resides in the simplest of moments. Welcome to Kyoto, Japan, where ancient traditions meet modern life. Are you ready to embark on a journey back in time? Welcome to our channel, your passport to the extraordinary. Today we're going to take you on an immersive tour of a Buddhist temple where you experience daily life as a novice monk. As the sun rises over the mountains, you awaken in your simple lodging, eager to embrace another day in this serene environment. But before the sun's golden rays touch your face, you must rise and prepare for the day's rituals. Your eyes open slowly to the soft light filtering through paper-thin walls. You stretch, feeling the tension of yesterday's postures releasing its grip on your tired muscles. Today is another opportunity to walk the path of a Buddhist monk, to immerse yourself in the tranquil rhythm of life at this historic temple. The cool morning air greets you as you step outside, carrying with it the earthy scent of the nearby mountains and the promise of a pristine day. The dew-kissed grass feels refreshing beneath your feet, and the towering trees stand as silent sentinels, their branches reaching towards the heavens as if in prayer. Their leaves rustle softly, creating a soothing melody that harmonizes with the chirping of birds. The gentle breeze caresses your skin, urging you to begin your day with renewed vigor. Your first task awaits in the washroom, a small, simple space with a large tub filled with cold water. Here, the most basic necessities are tended to. where the monks wash their bodies and prepare themselves for the day ahead. You wash yourself thoroughly, scrubbing your body with a rough loofah, paying attention to every inch until every pore is clean and your skin is free of dirt and grime. But there's no fancy soap here, only a bar of ash mixed with animal fat, hard and coarse. As you lather it up, you feel a strange sensation on your skin. It's unlike the gentle cleansers you're accustomed to. No bubbly lather or moisturizing cream. This soap is honest, just as the monks who use it. Its rawness reminds you that cleanliness here is not about comfort or fragrance, but about the practical necessity of maintaining the body that houses your spiritual practice. You scrub your palms together, the soap cracking and breaking into tiny pieces that leave fine lines on your skin. And when you rub your hands together, the oil from the fat creates a warm feeling that spreads through your fingers. You notice how rough they've become from all the scrubbing and the work of the past week. Looking at them, you see calluses and dry patches where the skin has thickened from constant friction. The nails are trimmed and clean, and despite their roughness, there's a certain strength and resilience in them that speaks of a life lived with purpose. After washing, you feel the water's icy chill against your burning skin. You step out and watch the water cascade over your body, a baptism of sorts. In this moment, the cold doesn't bother you. Instead, you feel a strange sense of peace. From the washroom, the monks flow into the main hall for morning zazen. The hall is vast and dim, its size emphasized by the few oil lamps that cast flickering shadows across the weathered pillars. The air is heavy with the scent of incense, but also something else. The deep woody smell of aged timber, the faint mustiness of tatami mats, and the particular coolness that comes from stone and mountain air. The sight of 50 monks, dressed in their flowing brown robes, seated on cushions, is truly breathtaking. They are lined up neatly in rows, each figure exuding an aura of tranquility. The hall itself is a testament to countless years of devotion and practice. The wooden floorboards creak softly with age, whispering tales of countless hours spent in deep contemplation. The intricate carvings on the pillars dance before your eyes, each curve and design telling a story of ancient wisdom and tradition. The lamps emit a soft, warm glow, casting dancing shadows that seem to mimic the flicker of flames. These, though not real, symbolize the inner light that each monk strives to cultivate within themselves. As you settle onto your cushion, you know that what follows will be more than a physical exercise. You are about to partake in a deeply spiritual practice that has stood the test of time. You arrange your legs in the lotus position as best you can. For many of the monks, this posture is as natural as standing. Yet for you, it feels alien and stiff. The pressure on your knees is intense, and after a few moments, you can feel them reddening from the strain. Your back arches involuntarily, trying to find a comfortable angle, but the more you move, the deeper the discomfort becomes. You look at the monk sitting beside you, seemingly unfazed by the rigidity of the position. His knees are pressed tightly together, forming a straight line from his thighs to his toes. His back is straight, his shoulders relaxed, and his spine appears to be effortlessly aligned. His breathing is slow and steady, almost imperceptible. As you observe him, you realize that his stillness is not a product of immobility, but rather a state of perfect balance and alignment. His body seems to be in harmony with the very essence of the space he occupies. The cushion beneath him seems to mold to his form, and he appears to be one with the floor. It's as if he has dissolved all resistance, becoming a single entity with the ground beneath him. He doesn't appear to be forcing anything, yet he is completely present. This stillness isn't merely a physical posture. It's a reflection of an inner peace that resonates throughout his entire being. You continue to sit, enduring the pain in your legs, desperate to find some semblance of ease. However, with each passing moment, the discomfort deepens. Your knees protest, sending sharp pains up your shins. Your thighs burn, and a throbbing sensation spreads through your lower back. The muscles in your calves tighten, and you can feel the tendons straining under the pressure. Despite the discomfort, you remain steadfast. You won't allow the pain to defeat you. Instead, you decide to confront it directly. You take a deep breath, willing your body to relax. You shift your weight slightly, trying to find a more comfortable position. But the more you try to adjust, the more the pain intensifies. You grit your teeth, fighting back tears that threaten to spill. This isn't just a physical ordeal. It's a battle of wills between your body's limitations and your unwavering determination. You won't give up. You won't let the pain win. You'll stay here as long as you have to. Time seems to lose all meaning in this moment. Seconds stretch into minutes, and the boundaries of reality blur. You become one with the pain, focusing on every throbbing nerve ending, every protesting muscle fiber. The world around you fades away, leaving you suspended in a realm of pure sensation. The sounds of the temple, the whispers of the monks, the distant chanting, all fade into a muffled hum. You are completely immersed in the present moment, aware of nothing except the fire burning in your legs. Just when you think you might explode from the intensity of the pain, something remarkable happens. A shift occurs within you. The pain doesn't vanish, but it changes, transforms into something different, something more bearable. You feel a new strength rising within you, a determination born of adversity. This pain, this struggle, becomes your teacher. It shows you the limits of your endurance, the strength of your spirit. You realize that pain is not something to be feared or avoided. It's a part of life, a catalyst for growth and transformation. As you maintain your position, the burning sensation in your legs gradually subsides, replaced by a comforting warmth. The pressure on your knees eases, and your back finds a point of equilibrium. You can feel the blood returning to your fingertips, bringing with it a small blessing of warmth. The muscles in your calves relax, releasing the tension that had been building within them. Despite the lingering soreness, you feel a sense of accomplishment. You have endured, you have held firm. In that moment, you understand that true strength lies not in the absence of pain, but in the ability to confront and overcome it. This is just a small taste of what the monks endure every day. With each sunrise, they return to this practice, facing the physical and mental challenges that come with it. They don't do it because they enjoy the discomfort, but because they understand that this discipline is an essential part of their spiritual journey. It's through this daily practice that they cultivate patience, perseverance, and an unwavering focus. So when you see these monks sitting in their timeless postures, know that they are not merely enduring a physical exercise. They are engaging in a profound practice that shapes their character, strengthens their resolve, and brings them closer to their spiritual path. The meditative state you're striving for is not about emptying the mind, but filling it with intention. In this vast emptiness of the temple hall, you're discovering a new kind of strength, a strength that arises not from physical prowess, but from the unwavering focus of the mind. You're realizing that the true battles are not fought on external battlefields, but within the depths of one's own being. This place, this moment, is your battlefield, and the victory you seek is the mastery of your own thoughts and emotions. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the life of a Buddhist monk, please don't forget to show your support. Each like and comment brings us closer to making more immersive experiences like this possible. The old Zen saying goes, when you sit, don't think about how long you've been sitting, but that's impossible, so try this instead. Don't think about how long you have left to sit. And with that, welcome to our temple stay. This is not a holiday. We are here to suffer, of course. If we're lucky, we will also meditate. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Brother Fab, and I'm one of the resident monks here at Deer Park Monastery. I came here as a student of Zen Buddhism and never left. That was many years ago. Now I get to share my home and my practice with people from all over the world who come to visit us. Your day will begin very early. Most of the monks wake up before 4 a.m. You will not follow that schedule. Instead, you will wake up when the other guests wake you, and you will dress in the clothes we provide and join everyone for morning meditation. But movement is not permitted. This is not a gentle meditation class where you can adjust your posture when comfort demands it. This is Zazen, the practice of just sitting. And just sitting means accepting whatever arises discomfort, boredom, frustration, or the strange peace that sometimes emerges from the depths of absolute stillness. The meditation hall is a vast space with high ceilings. A low platform rises from the floor, holding the altar and the image of Sakyamuni Buddha, the historical founder of Buddhism. Behind him, the mountain gate symbolizes the entrance to the pure lands of the West. Above the gate, a single white lotus blooms eternally in the sun. Opposite the altar, another smaller image sits on a cushion, serene and smiling, welcoming all who enter her presence. She is the embodiment of the bodhisattva of wisdom and compassion. When you enter the meditation hall, You may have noticed 3 round bales of cloth stacked beside your meditation cushion. They are there for your use during the retreat. A clean bale will be placed behind you on the first day. If you feel cold, you may place the second bale in front of you. But no matter how uncomfortable you feel, you will not remove the third bale. If you wish, you may rest your elbows on it. Some days you may be given an extra square piece of cloth to fold into a triangle and place behind your back. Use this only to support your posture. If you are distracted by any sounds within the meditation hall, do not try to focus on your breath. Just sit. If tears fall, let them flow. If your body convulses or twitches, relax into it. Do not try to control it. Allow it to express itself. After what feels like an eternity, but is actually only 40 minutes, a small bell rings once. The meditation ends not with stretching or casual conversation, but with the same silence that began it. The monks will rise from their cushions and take their places around the edges of the hall. The lay people will remain seated for 5 more minutes. When the bell rings again, you too will rise from your cushion and join the others at the edge of the hall. Here, deep bows are exchanged between monks and guests. As you bow deeply to the image of Buddha, you will repeat after the resident monks, reciting the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. First, we take refuge in the Buddha, the awakened one, and we renounce all attachment to our former ways. Then we take refuge in the Dharma, his teachings, and we vow to live according to them. Finally, we take refuge in the Sangha, the community of those who practice the Dharma, and we dedicate ourselves to living in harmony with all beings. The precepts are the vows we make to practice loving speech, to refrain from harming any being, to abstain from taking what is not freely given, to refrain from sexual misconduct, and to abstain from intoxicants. The lay people will recite these same words and make the same vows. The monks will then exit the meditation hall and begin the work period. For the lay people, this is the time for Dharma study. You will study selected passages from Zen Buddhist writings. Your teacher will guide you through these texts and help you understand their meaning. During the work period, the monastery comes alive with activity. The sound of mops and buckets echoes through the halls as the guests prepare the dining room for the midday meal. Others wash the many dishes that need to be ready for the evening meal. In the kitchen, some chop vegetables, while others prepare tea. There is no music here, so the sounds of your labor become the background music of the monastery. Your work is meditation. Meditation is your work. In Zen monasteries, there is no distinction between spiritual practice and daily labor. Sweeping the floors is meditation, preparing food is meditation, cleaning the toilets is meditation. You would be assigned a task, perhaps sweeping the long wooden corridors that connect the various buildings of the monastery complex. The broom they would give you is unlike any cleaning tool you've ever used. It's made of thin bamboo twigs bound together, designed not for efficiency, but for mindfulness. Each stroke must be deliberate, each section of floor attended to with complete presence. You cannot hurry this task. You cannot let your mind wander to other things while your hands work automatically. The supervising monk would watch you with the same patient attention he gave to your mat folding, and you would learn that there is no such thing as just sweeping in this place. The floors themselves are beautiful in their simplicity-wide planks of wood worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, polished to a gentle shine by the daily attention of countless monks. As you sweep, you would notice the grain of the wood the way the light from the paper screens creates patterns across the surface, the small imperfections and nail holes that speak of the human hands that built this place generations ago. When your work is done, you return to the meditation hall for another period of just sitting. In the afternoon, some guests will study more Dharma texts, while others will engage in mindful walking meditation. Still others will join the resident monks in the garden for work details. All will return to the meditation hall for another period of zazen. The day will end with a final work period followed by dinner. In the evening, the guests will gather in the Dharma hall. Sometimes resident monks will lead chanting sessions where everyone joins in unison to recite sutras and other Buddhist texts. These are the words that have echoed through the halls of Buddhist monasteries for centuries. On other nights, a monk will talk about the history of the monastery or give a lecture on some aspect of Zen Buddhism. After the evening program, you may return to your room to rest. Sleep is not forbidden in Zen Buddhism, but sleep must be approached mindfully. You must lie down with awareness and examine your thoughts. How does the body settle into the bed? What sensations arise as you drift off to sleep? Do not simply vegetate. Be conscious even in sleep. Some nights you will be awakened by another guest who needs to go to the toilet. In these moments of darkness and solitude, you will hear the deep silence of your true nature. Other nights you will be called to the meditation hall. Everyone will sit together in darkness for another session of silent meditation. On the last day of your stay, you will participate in a closing ceremony. The head monk will give an informal talk on the subject of what can you bring home. He will discuss the importance of integrating Zen Buddhist practice into daily life. At the end of the talk, all the monks and guests will sit in meditation as the head monk chimes a large bronze singing bowl. The sound will resonate through the hall, connecting all beings in a web of peace. The ceremony will conclude with a final bowing to the images of Buddha and the Bodhisattva. You will receive a certificate of completion and a small memento of your stay. There will be no farewell party and no goodbyes. Your only task now is to take all the teachings you've received back out into the world. The room is hushed. The only sounds the scrape of your chair legs on the stone floor and the soft clatter of your spoon against bowl. There is no hurry here, allowing the flavors to fill your mouth, to linger on your tongue before you swallow. Each bite is an act of mindfulness, a reminder to be present in the moment. You glance around the room at the other monks, their faces serene, their movements deliberate. It's a quiet revelation to witness such stillness amidst the bustle of everyday life that constantly pulls at your attention. After breakfast, you would likely find yourself drawn to the heart of the monastery, the temple hall. Here, in the very center of the complex, is where the main deity of the monastery is enshrined, a Buddha or possibly the historical founder of the sect. This is the focal point, the axis upon which the entire monastery turns. And yet, like so many aspects of this place, it is not ostentatious, not designed to overwhelm the senses with grandeur or gold leaf gilding. Instead, it's in the simplicity, in the clean lines and unadorned surfaces that a different kind of magnificence emerges. It's as though the very act of stripping away all ornament, all distraction, allows something essential to shine through. You might sit here for hours contemplating the space, soaking in the atmosphere of centuries of devotion. And in that quiet contemplation, you begin to grasp the essence of what makes this place more than just a building. A place of worship, a home for monks. It's a crucible of discipline, a living testament to the relentless pursuit of inner peace. When you visited the Zen Monastery, you felt a strange sense of calm descend upon you. It was as if the very walls of the monastery radiated a tranquility that seeped into your bones. The other monks seemed so at peace with themselves and their surroundings, so focused on their tasks that you couldn't help but wonder about the secrets they held, the practices they followed to achieve this state of serenity. Perhaps it was the repetition of tasks, the routine that allowed them to empty their minds of distractions, to focus on the present moment. Or maybe it was the connection they had with nature, the way they seemed to find solace in the changing seasons. In the simple beauty of a leaf or the sound of the wind, you found yourself drawn to their way of life, intrigued by the possibility that there was more to existence than the hustle and bustle of modern life. As the days passed, you grew accustomed to the rhythm of life at the monastery. You participated in the daily chores, learning the ancient art of calligraphy or the meditative practice of flower arrangement. You joined the monks in their morning and evening rituals, chanting prayers and bowing before the altar. With each passing day, you felt yourself shedding the weight of your old life. The worries and anxieties that had clung to you like a shroud, in their place you found a sense of purpose, a feeling of belonging. You were part of something larger than yourself, a community dedicated to the pursuit of enlightenment. One evening, after a particularly strenuous day of work, you found yourself sitting alone in the temple hall. The air was thick with incense, and the flickering light of the candles danced around you. As you sat there in silence, you realized that you hadn't felt this at peace in years. The noise and chaos of the outside world seemed distant and irrelevant. Here, in this quiet sanctuary, you were free from the burdens of your past, from the expectations of society. For the first time in a long time, you were truly at peace. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the courtyard, you knew it was time to return to the guest quarters. You had grown fond of the simple room with its tatami mats and paper walls. It had become your sanctuary, a place where you could retreat from the demands of the day and lose yourself in the quiet hum of monastic life. The futon mattress lay ready on the floor, an invitation to rest. You slipped off your robe, careful not to disturb the pristine white linen, and lay down. The silence was comforting, broken only by the distant chant of the monks in the temple hall. You closed your eyes, savoring the stillness. There was no clock ticking nearby, no phone buzzing insistently, just the gentle whisper of the wind through the trees. It was a luxury to be able to just be, to exist in the present moment without the constant barrage of stimuli that characterized your life outside these tranquil walls. Here, in the peaceful embrace of the monastery, you found a solace that you had never known before. The weight of your worries seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of calm that enveloped you like a warm blanket. It was as if the very essence of the monastery, its centuries-old halls and serene gardens, had a soothing power over your troubled mind. You drifted off to sleep with a sense of gratitude for this place and the unexpected peace that it had brought into your life. And when you woke up the following morning, you did so feeling lighter, more centered than you had in a long time. The clamor of the modern world seemed distant and unimportant. Here in the heart of the monastery, you had discovered a different way of living, a way of life that revolved around simplicity, discipline, and above all, peace. The monastery had become more than just a place of worship. It was a sanctuary for your soul, a refuge from the storms of life. You knew that when you left, the outside world would rush back in. But you also knew that you were carrying a piece of this tranquility within you. The memory of it would serve as a guiding light, reminding you of the serenity that could be found even in the midst of chaos. This visit to the monastery was more than just a journey of 1,000 miles. It had been a journey of self-discovery, a pilgrimage that had led you not just to a new place, but to a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. As you prepared to leave, you couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. The thought of returning to your old life, to the noise and distractions that had become so unbearable, filled you with dread, but you knew it was time to go. The experience had been life-changing, but life had to go on. You had responsibilities, relationships, and dreams that awaited you outside the monastery walls, as you bowed before the Buddha, thanking him for the wisdom and solace he had offered you. You made a silent vow to carry the lessons you had learned here back into the world. You promised to find moments of stillness amidst the chaos, to seek peace in the ordinary and to approach each task with the same mindfulness and intention that the monks had shown you. Stepping out of the monastery gates, you were greeted by the familiar sights and sounds of the outside world. But everything seemed different now, sharper, more vibrant. The bustling streets, the honking cars, and the chatter of people sounded like music to your ears. You were no longer overwhelmed by the chaos. Instead, you saw the beauty in it, the energy that pulsed through the city like a living, breathing organism. You took a deep breath, filling your lungs with the fresh air. The taste of freedom was sweet on your tongue. You were no longer just a visitor to this world. You were a part of it, a contributing member with the ability to make a positive impact. You started your journey back home, your steps lighter, your heart full. The road ahead was uncertain, but you were no longer afraid. You had found a strength within yourself that had always been there, dormant but not defeated. It was the strength of resilience, the ability to adapt, to overcome, and to find beauty in the midst of struggle. The Zen Monastery had been the catalyst, the trigger that had awakened this strength and set you on a path of self-discovery. You knew that the challenges of life would continue, but you also knew that you had the tools to face them head-on. And as you walked, you couldn't help but smile. You had come to the monastery seeking peace, and had found it not only in the serene halls and tranquil gardens, but most importantly, within yourself. The journey of 1,000 miles had brought you back to where you started, but you were no longer the same. You were a changed person, forever marked by the teachings and tranquility of the Zen Monastery. When you eat here, you don't talk. It's not that you aren't allowed to talk. It's that there's nothing to talk about. Not much anyway. There's your food and that's it. You have your meal ticket and you go to the kitchen and they give you your portion of rice and your miso, soup and your pickled vegetables. And you return to your room and you eat. The eating itself is conducted in complete silence. No conversation, no casual comments about the food or the weather or the day's activities. Each monk eats with the same deliberate attention he brings to meditation, chewing slowly, placing his chopsticks with precision, drinking his tea with the awareness of every swallow. You would find this silence at meals almost unbearable at first, accustomed as you are to the social aspect of eating. The way food becomes an excuse for connection and conversation. You would probably find the pace of the eating very slow too, since there's no rush. It's not as though you're re-meeting friends or coworkers and need to quickly fuel up before diving into the day's activities. Here in the monastery, there is no reason to eat fast. So each monk takes the time to appreciate every bite, savoring the taste, the texture, the temperature of the food, allowing himself to be fully present in the experience of eating. You would probably find the food itself strange, if not unappealing at first. The rice is plain, unseasoned, each grain separate and perfectly cooked. The miso soup is simple, just fermented soybean paste dissolved in hot water with a few pieces of seaweed. The pickled vegetables are sour and salty, their flavors sharp and clean. Since food is sustenance, not as pleasure or comfort, you would miss the complex flavors and varied textures you're accustomed to. The way modern meals layer salt and sugar and fat to create satisfaction. Here, satisfaction comes not from the food itself, but from the gratitude with which it is received. After breakfast, the bowls are cleaned with the same meticulous attention given to every other task. Hot water is poured into each bowl, and the monks use small pieces of pickled radish to scrub away any remaining food. The water is then drunk, ensuring that nothing is wasted, that every grain of rice and drop of soup is honored. Even the cleaning water is treated as sacred, as part of the practice of receiving what is offered with complete appreciation. The days are filled with periods of meditation, work, and study, punctuated by these silent meals. In the early afternoon, after a period of zazen, you might sit in the garden and study the platform sutras. Their words are a mixture of practical advice and spiritual insight, reminding you of the importance of simplicity, patience, diligence, and compassion in all aspects of life. The heat of the day is your constant companion, making any movement feel like an effort. Any sounds seem intrusive, any thought intrusive. But as the sun begins its slow descent, the air cools and the sounds of the mountain come alive. The buzzing of insects becomes a soothing chorus, the rustling of leaves a gentle reminder of the natural world. Around you, the distant call of a bird feels like a greeting, the sight of a spider patiently weaving its web, an inspiration to practice with unwavering focus. As twilight deepens, you join the other monks in the dining hall for another silent meal. The evening meal is simpler than breakfast, often just rice and pickles. But the quietude of the space, the solitude of each monk bent over his bowl, creates an atmosphere of profound peace. The absence of sound, far from being oppressive, becomes a source of comfort, allowing you to fully immerse yourself in the simple act of nourishing your body. After the evening meal, there's usually some free time before the final meditation of the day. Some monks might spend this time in private reflection or in conversation with fellow practitioners, sharing their experiences and insights. Others might engage in personal chores or assist the older monks with various tasks. As the moon ascends in the night sky, you return to the meditation hall for the last zazen of the day. The evening meditation is often the deepest and most challenging. Day's activities have tired the body, and the quiet vastness of the night can bring a heightened sense of solitude and introspection. The darkness enveloping the mountains amplifies the stillness, allowing you to fully let go of distractions. As you sit, the sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, the hoot of an owl, become your only companions. The darkness is not empty. It is filled with the whispers of the universe, the pulse of life itself. And if you listen deeply enough, you might hear not just the sounds, but the essence of things. The interconnectedness of all beings, the impermanence of all forms. And in this realization, you might find a profound sense of peace. Each night, before lying down to sleep, you might find yourself reflecting on the day's experiences, the insights gained from the sutras, challenges of the meditation, the simplicity of the work. The day has been long, the discipline rigorous. Yet there is a deep sense of fulfillment that comes from a life lived in accordance with simple principles. Sleep comes easily, your dreams filled with images of mountains, forests, and the endless blue sky. Waking is slow, a gentle emergence from the dream world into the quiet of the morning. When you wake, the first rays of sunlight have begun to touch the mountain peaks, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold. You rise slowly, your body stiff from hours of sitting, but your mind feeling unusually clear. The morning air is crisp, carrying with it the scent of pine and damp earth. It's a new day, another opportunity to practice, to grow, to learn. As the sun begins its ascent, you join the other monks in the dining hall for breakfast. The rising sun, the fragrant food, the quiet company of fellow practitioners all contribute to a sense of peace that pervades the moment. It is a good life, one of simplicity, discipline, and quiet joy. It is a routine that never ceases to amaze me, the way each day unfolds with such regularity, each season melts into the next. Each year finds its place in the cycle of time here on the mountain. Yet within this apparent sameness, there is a richness that defies the limitations of language. It is a richness that touches the heart, that resonates with the deepest yearnings of the soul. What more could one ask for? Welcome to Shambhala. In this place, you are not special. You are not unique. You are simply another practitioner, another seeker, another human being learning to find peace through the radical discipline of complete presence. The monastery's silence would teach you how much noise fills your ordinary life at simplicity. It would reveal how much complexity you create unnecessarily, and its discipline would show you how much of your energy is wasted on resistance to what is. In this space, there is no distinction between the sacred and the mundane. Every moment is a chance to practice. Every experience a possibility for awakening. There is no separation between the spiritual and the everyday. Here, every day is holy. And this holiness is not a matter of rituals or beliefs, but of simple, open awareness. It is a way of seeing the sacredness in the ordinary. The sun, rising over the snow-capped mountains, is more than just a beautiful sight. It is an expression of the fundamental energy of existence. The wind whispering through the trees is not just a gentle breeze. It is the voice of nature reminding us of our interconnectedness with all living beings. Each task, whether it is sweeping the courtyard or washing the dishes, becomes a meditation. It is an opportunity to be fully present in the activity itself, to find joy and purpose in the simplest of actions. As the day progresses, the rhythm of the monastery's life unfolds like the chapters of an ancient book. After breakfast, the monks engage in various tasks that sustain the community. Some tend to the gardens, nurturing the vegetables that will nourish them. Others work in the kitchen, preparing meals with mindful awareness. Still others may dedicate themselves to cleaning and maintaining the monastery's facilities. All these activities are not just chores, they are expressions of service and a way to connect with the practical aspects of their spiritual path. For the seeker who comes to Shambhala, this way of life can be both challenging and inspiring. The initial days might bring discomfort. The silence could feel oppressive, the simplicity stark, and the discipline rigid. But as you walk along the labyrinthine paths of the monastery, something within you begins to stir. You might find yourself drawn to the quiet dignity of the chapel, where the very air seems to vibrate with a deep sense of peace. Entering the chapel, you discover a sanctuary of tranquility. Sunlight streams through the high windows, painting patterns on the wooden floor. The air is filled with the aroma of incense, inviting you to breathe deeply and let go of the day's tension. The soft glow of the candles flickering before the altar creates an atmosphere of serenity, allowing your mind to drift towards stillness. You find a quiet corner, close your eyes, and let the peace of this place envelop you. Your breath becomes deeper, slower. The constant chatter of your mind gradually fades away, replaced by a profound inner quiet. This is the silence of the soul, a silence that speaks volumes about the depth of your true being. It is here in the depths of this silence that you begin to hear the whispers of your heart. No longer overshadowed by the clamor of the outside world, you listen intently to this inner wisdom, realizing that it has been with you all along. The teachings of Shambhala emphasize the importance of recognizing and following one's individual path. They encourage you to explore your own traditions, beliefs, and values, while also embracing the universality of human experience. At the heart of this approach lies the concept of radical acceptance, which invites you to embrace all aspects of your life, including the challenges and imperfections, with openness and without judgment. By cultivating this attitude, you transform difficulties into opportunities for growth and understanding. Shambhala encourages a deep connection with nature. It invites you to see the natural world not just as a backdrop, but as an integral part of your spiritual journey. Whether it is through gardening, hiking, or simply sitting in quiet contemplation amidst the beauty of the surroundings. Connecting with nature nurtures a sense of wonder and reminds you of your place in the larger web of life. At Shambhala, mindfulness permeates every aspect of daily life. It is a way of being fully present and engaged in whatever you are doing, whether it is eating, walking, or interacting with others. By bringing your full attention to the task at hand, you cultivate a deep appreciation for the richness of each moment. It is in this attentiveness that you discover the beauty of simplicity. Over time, the seeker begins to shed layers of complexity that have been holding them back. They start to recognize the power of letting go, not just of external things, but also of internal burdens, judgments, and attachment. This process of letting go brings a profound sense of liberation, allowing you to experience life with lightness and ease. Another key aspect of Shambhala's teachings is the practice of compassion. It encourages you to extend kindness and understanding not only to yourself, but also to others, including those who may be different from you or hold different beliefs. By cultivating compassion, you learn to see the shared humanity in everyone, fostering connections based on empathy and mutual respect. Walking through the peaceful halls of the monastery or sitting in quiet contemplation amidst the serene gardens, you begin to understand the deep allure of this way of life. For some, it may ignite a desire to simplify their lives, shedding the unnecessary complexities that often burden the human experience. Others may find inspiration to infuse more meaning and mindfulness into their daily activities, recognizing the potential for transformation in every moment. And then there are those who feel a profound calling, a yearning to immerse themselves fully in this tranquil existence. They sense that the teachings of Shambhala hold the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the universe. For such individuals, the decision to stay might seem like a leap of faith, a surrender to the unfolding of life's mysteries. In the tapestry of human experience, there are many threads that come together to create the rich fabric of our lives. Love, in its myriad forms, is one of the most powerful and transformative forces. When love is freely given, received, and expressed without conditions, it can be a source of immense joy and connection. However, sometimes love can become complicated. Conditions and expectations can creep in, creating imbalances that threaten to overshadow the purity of this precious emotion. The teachings of Shambhala offer a reminder to approach love in its most fundamental form, encouraging you to love without conditions. Unconditional love is not about overlooking the needs or respecting boundaries. Instead, it is about cherishing the other person or being for who they truly are, embracing their imperfections, and supporting them wholeheartedly on their journey. When we love without conditions, we create a space where there is no judgment, only acceptance. We become more open, more forgiving, and more compassionate. Our relationships become sanctuaries of mutual respect and understanding, where differences are celebrated and conflicts are transformed into opportunities for growth. Moreover, loving without conditions extends beyond interpersonal relationships. It encompasses a deep appreciation for all of life. It is about finding beauty in the smallest moments, embracing the natural world with reverence, and recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings. It is a way of approaching life that radiates warmth, kindness, and acceptance. Embracing love without conditions is an invitation to live authentically, to express your emotions openly, and to connect with others in a way that nurtures the soul. It is a reminder that in a world that often feels divided, love has the power to unite, heal, and inspire. As the day progresses, the seekers continue their exploration of themselves and the teachings of Shambhala. They might engage in discussions with fellow practitioners, sharing their experiences and insights. Some may choose to study Buddhist texts or engage in meditation and contemplation. Others might find solace in the monastery's library, delving into books that offer different perspectives on spirituality, philosophy, and personal growth. For those who come to Shambhala seeking solace from the chaos of the outside world, the solitude can be a blessing. It provides an opportunity to turn inward, to confront one's thoughts and emotions without distractions. In this solitude, there is a chance to heal old wounds, to release suppressed emotions, and to find strength in one's own resilience. It is a space where tears can flow freely, where laughter echoes without judgment, and where silence speaks volumes about the depth of one's being. As the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the landscape, the sense of community at Shambhala strengthens. The evening meal becomes a time not only for nourishment, but also for sharing and connection. Practitioners gather together, perhaps sharing stories, discussing their experiences, simply enjoying the quiet company of others who are on a similar path of self-discovery and spiritual growth. As the stars start to appear in the darkening sky, the day draws to a peaceful close. Many practitioners may choose to participate in evening meditation or prayer, finding solace in the tranquility of the night. Some may take this time to journal, reflecting on the insights and experiences of the day. In the quiet hours before sleep, when the world outside Shambhala has long fallen silent, there is a sense of profound peace. The day's activities have settled into a calm stillness, leaving behind a sense of contentment and introspection.
Austere.
The seeker, nestled in the peaceful surroundings of the monastery, might find themselves enveloped in a deep state of relaxation. The teachings of Shambhala have cultivated a sense of gratitude for the simplicity and beauty of life. The seeker drifts off to sleep, their dreams perhaps filled with visions of tranquil gardens, gentle laughter, and the echoes of wisdom shared throughout the day. The turning point came when Dogen was 23. He had heard stories of a new form of Buddhism that was flourishing in China, a practice called Shin, which the Japanese would later call Zen. This was not the elaborate scholastic Buddhism of the Japanese monasteries, but something radically different, a direct pointing to the nature of mind itself, without reliance on complex rituals or lengthy study. The decision to travel to China was not taken lightly. This was 1223, and the journey across the East China Sea was dangerous, uncertain, and expensive. Many monks who attempted the crossing never returned, lost to storms or pirates, or the simple hazards of traveling in a foreign land. But Dogen's need for authentic teaching had become stronger than his fear, and he convinced his teacher Myson to join him on what would be a transformative pilgrimage. Imagine the scene as their ship pulled away from the Japanese coast. Liu Zhen would have watched his homeland disappear into the morning mist, knowing that he might never see it again. The ship was small and crowded, filled with merchants, diplomats, and other monks, making the crossing for their own reasons. The voyage took weeks, and during those long days at sea, Dogen would have had time to contemplate the magnitude of what he was attempting, leaving behind everything familiar and secure in pursuit of something he could not even properly articulate. As the ship cut through the waves, Dogen's thoughts would have been a turbulent sea of their own, a mixture of excitement, fear, doubt, and determination. What if he never found the answers he sought? What if the journey was in vain? Such thoughts would have crossed his mind, testing his resolve. But the pull of the unknown, the yearning for something more, was a force he could not deny. When the ship finally reached the Chinese coast, Dogen must have felt a surge of relief mingled with anticipation. He had made it. Now the real work began. He and his teacher would have disembarked in the bustling port city of Hangzhou, a major trading hub at the time, and a center of Buddhist scholarship. It was here that Dogen first encountered the teachings of Zen. He likely visited local monasteries, meeting Chinese monks who shared stories of their own experiences and insights. These encounters would have been pivotal, providing Dogen with a glimpse of the practice he had come so far to seek. But it was in the quiet solitude of meditation that Dogen truly began to grasp the essence of Zen. The Zen practice he encountered in China was not a new departure from traditional Buddhism, as some might imagine, but a return to its original source. This is because the essence of Zen lies not in its rituals, scriptures, or historical figures, but in the direct experience of reality as it is. In the stillness of meditation, Dogen found that reality to be pure, boundless, and utterly present. It was a vast, open space, free from the clutter of thoughts, emotions, and conceptual labels that usually obscure our perception. In this state of stillness, there is no separation between subject and object, self and other. All distinctions dissolve into the realization that we are fundamentally interconnected with everything in the universe. But the path to realizing this truth is not easy. It requires a profound shift in perspective. a letting go of the habitual ways of thinking and perceiving that have been ingrained in us since birth. For Dogen, this journey of discovery was a challenging one. In the quiet of his meditations, he grappled with the limitations of his own mind, with the habitual patterns of grasping and attachment that kept him from seeing the world as it truly is. Yet with each struggle, he came closer to the heart of Zen, discovering a strength and resilience within himself he had never known before. It was during this period in China that Dogen experienced a transformative event that would forever change his understanding of Zen. In one of his meditation sessions, he had a sudden, profound realization that shattered his remaining doubts and solidified his commitment to this new way of life. This moment of awakening, known in Zen as Satori, was not a mystical or supernatural experience, but a clear and immediate understanding of the true nature of reality. For Dogen, this moment of Satori was a revelation of the interconnectedness of all things. He realized that there is no separation between the self and others, between subject and object, between life and death. All distinctions, he saw, are merely figments of our limited perception, barriers we construct that prevent us from seeing the oneness of existence. In that moment, Dogen's understanding of Zen deepened immeasurably. He saw that the essence of Zen is not to be found in rituals, scriptures, or philosophical treatises, but in this direct experience of reality as it is. It is a realization that can only be attained through personal practice, through the cultivation of mindfulness and the letting go of conceptual thought. With his understanding of Zen solidified, Dogen turned his attention to sharing this newfound wisdom with others. But he soon discovered that simply describing or explaining the experience of Zen was inadequate. Words, after all, are bound by the limitations of conceptual thought, which is why Zen places such emphasis on direct experience. How then, Dogen pondered, could he convey the inexpressible, share the experience of Zen, without resorting to the very limitations that obscured it? At that point, Dogen began to develop his own style of teaching, one that went beyond the confines of language and scripture. He introduced the concept of Zazen, seated meditation, as the primary practice of Zen, a way of directly experiencing the true nature of reality. Zazen became the cornerstone of Dogen's teachings, and he emphasized that this practice is not a mere exercise in mindfulness or concentration, but a profound method for awakening to the interconnectedness of all things. Through Zazen, practitioners are encouraged to let go of conceptual thought and to rest in the stillness of being, where the barriers of self and other fall away, and we realize our fundamental unity with all of existence. Over time, Dogen and his followers developed a number of practices and rituals that complemented Zazen, such as the Kinhin, or walking meditation, and the Samu, or practice of everyday activities as a form of Zazen. These practices, while seemingly simple, are deeply transformative, inviting practitioners to bring the same mindfulness and presence to all aspects of life, not just in formal meditation sessions. Dogen's impact on Japanese Buddhism was nothing short of revolutionary. His teachings, rooted in the direct experience of reality, resonated deeply with many who sought a more authentic and less ritualistic form of Buddhism. As his influence spread, Zen centers or Zendo sprang up across Japan, each becoming a hub of spiritual practice and learning. Within these Zendo, Dogen's teachings took on a life of their own, evolving and adapting to the unique circumstances of each community. However, despite the widespread appeal of Dogen's teachings, he was not without his critics. Some questioned the departure from traditional Buddhist practices, while others challenged Dogen's views on the role of scriptures and rituals. But Dogen remained steadfast in his commitment to sharing the transformative experience of Zen, unafraid to go against the prevailing currents of religious thought. In his later years, Dogen's health began to decline, but his spirit remained unbroken. As his physical strength faded, his mind continued to be a beacon of clarity and insight, guiding countless seekers on their own journeys towards awakening. When he finally passed away in 1253, he left behind a legacy that would endure for centuries. His teachings, preserved and carried on by his devoted students, continued to shape the landscape of Japanese Buddhism and inspired countless individuals to seek the truth for themselves through the practice of Zen. Today, Dogen's influence can be seen in various forms of meditation and mindfulness practices that have gained popularity in recent years. His emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things also resonates deeply in a world grappling with issues of environmental sustainability and social division. a time when many feel disconnected from themselves and each other. Dogen's teachings offer a timeless path towards awakening and wholeness. So as you sit in meditation, as you walk in mindfulness, or as you engage in the simplest of tasks, may the spirit of Dogen inspire you to see beyond the confines of self and other, beyond the boundaries of thought and form, and may you discover the boundless peace and interconnectedness that Zen has revealed to countless seekers throughout the ages. In one of our earlier episodes, we talked about how Dogen's teacher, Nanyan, had traveled to China to study under one of the great Zen masters of the Song dynasty, Wuji. Now, Dogen himself felt called to make the pilgrimage to China, which he did in 1223 when he was 41 years old. The China he encountered was in the midst of its own spiritual renaissance. The Song dynasty had created conditions of relative peace and prosperity that allowed Buddhist practice to flourish. But it was a Buddhism transformed by centuries of interaction with Chinese culture. The elaborate Indian philosophical systems had been simplified and made practical, so the focus had shifted from scholarly debate to direct experience, from theoretical understanding to immediate realization. Now, Dogen's first encounters with Chinese Shin were both inspiring and frustrating. He visited several monasteries, studied with various teachers, and was exposed to a depth and freedom of practice he had never encountered in Japan. But he also found that many of these teachers were not accepting new students, or if they were, they seemed more interested in testing his commitment than in providing the clear instruction he sought. In fact, some of them seemed to have deliberately tried to put him off. One of them reportedly asked Dogen, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" When Dogen responded, "Two hands must clap to make a sound," the master said, "That's exactly what I wanted to test you on. You can't even answer correctly, and yet you want to ask me for instructions. Why don't you go back to Japan and stop bothering me?" Frustrated and disheartened, Dogen began to consider returning home empty-handed, feeling that he had not received the guidance he so desperately needed. But then something remarkable happened. Dogen had an unexpected encounter with a simple country monk who would change everything. It was during this period of searching that Dogen had his first profound insight into the nature of time and practice. He observed how the Chinese monks approached their daily routine. The same activities he had performed in Japan, but with a fundamentally different understanding. For them, sweeping the floor was not preparation for enlightenment, it was enlightenment itself. Meditation was not a means to achieve awakening. It was the expression of awakening. All of life was engaged in practice. Every moment was an opportunity to realize the truth. This shift in understanding from practice as a means to an end, to practice as an end in itself, would become central to Dogen's later teaching. But at the time, it was still largely intellectual, a concept he could grasp but not fully embody. This story has inspired countless Zen practitioners over the centuries, myself included, because it captures the essence of what we are up against when we sit down to meditate. We think that enlightenment is something we will attain someday, something that will happen to us as a result of our practice. But the truth is that enlightenment is not a destination. It is the practice itself. And we already possess the qualities of enlightenment within us. What we need is to awaken to them. For Dogen, the turning point came when he encountered a farmer monk named Zudo, contemporary of Dogen's, who had studied with Wuxi and other renowned Chan masters. Zudao was not a particularly accomplished meditator or a brilliant scholar, but something about his way of engaging with the world awakened something deep within Dogen. Zudao's biography tells a simple tale of a man who left his family to study Buddhism and after several years of wandering, ended up at a monastery where he was asked to take care of the gardens. He spent his days tilling the soil, planting vegetables, and arranging rocks, all while chanting sutras softly under his breath. At first, the other monks ridiculed him for his unconventional practices. But soon, they noticed that Su Tao seemed to be in a state of constant joy and serenity, a stark contrast to their own struggling efforts to meditate. Intrigued, they began to observe him, and what they saw was a man completely absorbed in his work, finding perfection in the ordinary. When Dogen first met Zudao, he too was skeptical. Here was a man who seemed to have abandoned meditation and scholarship in favor of gardening, a man who appeared to find enlightenment in the mundane tasks of farming. But as Dogen watched Zudao work, he noticed something extraordinary. Zudao was not just doing farm work, he was embodying the principles of Zen. In every movement, he was expressing the truth of non-duality. His hands, as they tilled the soil, seemed to be dancing with the rhythm of the universe. His eyes, as they gazed upon the fields, reflected the vast expanse of the cosmos. His whole being, as it interacted with the natural world, was a living embodiment of enlightenment. One day, Dogen mustered up his courage and approached Zhu Dao and asked, "How is it possible for you to live like this? How can you find enlightenment in such simple tasks as tending a garden?" Zhu Dao turned to Dogen, his face breaking into a warm smile. "What do you mean by living like this? This is just how I live. I do what needs to be done and find joy in it. Is there anything more to life than that?" Dogen was taken aback by Zhu Dao's simple answer. He realized that he himself was the one who had brought a sense of duality into Zhu Dao's existence by asking this question. He saw that in his quest for enlightenment, he had somehow forgotten the beauty of simply living. From that moment on, Dogen became Zhu Dao's student, not because he wanted to learn any special technique or formula, but because he wanted to rediscover the art of living. He spent his days working alongside Zhu Dao in the fields, and his nights contemplating the vastness of the universe. During their quiet moments together, Zhu Dao would often talk about the importance of seeing one's true nature, not in some distant future state of enlightenment, but in the present moment. He taught Dogen to look within himself, to find the source of suffering, not in the external world, but in his own clinging to duality. And most importantly, he taught Dogen that enlightenment was not something to be attained, but something to be lived. Their time together was a turning point in Dogen's life. He began to see that the path of enlightenment was not about seeking, but about revealing. It was not about finding something new, but about discovering what had always been there. Under Zhu Dao's guidance, Dogen started to embody these principles, and his own life became a practice of Zen. He began to see that the ordinary tasks of daily life were not mundane, but sacred. In sweeping the floor, he saw the dance of enlightenment. In washing the dishes, he heard the music of the cosmos. In serving tea, he experienced the warmth of interconnectedness. However, the time eventually came for Dogen to return to Japan. As he prepared to leave, he went to see Zhu Dao and knelt before him, tears streaming down his face. "Master, I am leaving, but how can I continue my practice without your guidance?" Zhu Dao placed a hand on Dogen's shoulder, his eyes filled with kindness and wisdom. "Dogen, my son, remember, practice does not require a teacher. It only requires a willing heart. The whole of life is practice, and practice is the whole of life. Do not seek me when I am gone, for I will be with you in every leaf that rustles, in every wave that crashes, in every mountain that stands. And most importantly, I will be with you in the depths of your own being." With these words, Dogen understood that the essence of Buddhism lay not in any particular doctrine or ritual, but in the cultivation of wisdom and compassion in everyday life. He realized that the true spirit of Zen was not confined to monasteries or temples, but could be found in the most unexpected places and in the most ordinary of people. When the old monk spoke those words, "In Zen, you must drop off body and mind," it was like a sudden awakening, like a loud clap of thunder in a clear sky. I had been meditating for more than 10 years, but at that moment, I realized the whole secret of meditation. Why? Because those words expressed the very essence of our teacher's daily advice. We couldn't understand it before because our minds were biased by our past views, but now it all became clear. No wonder our teacher Ruqing didn't teach us any scriptures or give us lectures. Our teacher just told us to sit, just to sit. Even now, many years after my teacher's passing, I still follow his instructions. I just sit, that's all. I just sit. Whenever we talk about the nature of mind, we must first consider how we use the word mind. What does mind mean? When we say my mind, are we talking about consciousness or awareness? Or are we referring to something else? If we look at how people usually use the word mind, we can distinguish two main aspects to it. One aspect refers to the various mental activities that occur within us, such as thinking, deliberating, doubting, and imagining. Some Buddhist texts refer to this aspect of mind as the monkey mind, because it constantly jumps around from one thought to another like a monkey leaping between tree branches. Another way to describe this aspect of mind is as the fictitious mind, because it creates all sorts of imaginary constructs and stories that we then identify as real. For example, we might think, I am this particular person. I have a certain nationality. I belong to this particular religion. But these are all labels and concepts that the mind has constructed. None of them truly exist independently. The other aspect of mind refers to the underlying awareness or consciousness that observes these mental activities. Some texts call this aspect of mind the still mind because it is always calm and peaceful. Others refer to it as the mirror mind because it reflects all the mental activities that arise, just as a mirror reflects the images of objects placed in front of it. So when someone says, "My mind is wandering," they usually mean that their thoughts are scattered and unfocused. But when someone says, "My mind is calm and peaceful," they are referring to the still aspect of mind. When we meditate, the goal is to rest in this aspect of mind, the pure and peaceful awareness that underlies the constant chatter of thoughts. This is what our teacher Ru Qing meant when he told us to drop off body and mind. To drop off the body means to realize that we are not our physical form, but rather the awareness that is present within the body. Even when we are asleep, unaware of our physical surroundings, there is still some level of consciousness. This means that our awareness is not dependent on the body for its existence. And when we say drop off mind, we are letting go of the fictitious mind, the mind that creates all sorts of thoughts, emotions, and labels. When we let go of this mind, we are not eliminating our capacity for thought or feeling. We are simply choosing not to identify with them so closely. We recognize that they are just mental events that arise and pass away like clouds floating across the sky. In the same way that a skilled sailor can navigate the ocean by looking at the stars, even when the horizon seems unclear. In the same way that a skilled swordsman can deflect attacks without being thrown off balance, we can remain centered in our practice even when distractions arise. We don't need to try to hold on to something that will lead us to enlightenment. We only need to let go. But why do we cling so tightly to our ideas, our goals, and our concerns? Why do we find it so hard to let go? The answer lies in our mistaken view of what it means to be human. We mistakenly believe that our happiness depends on external factors such as money, fame, and social status. Because of this mistaken view, we spend most of our lives pursuing things that are outside of our control. We worry about whether we will succeed or fail, whether others will approve of us or reject us. And in the process, we lose sight of the precious human life that we have been given. When we meditate, we begin to awaken to the fact that we have been living with a fundamental misunderstanding of ourselves and the world around us. We start to see that our suffering is not caused by external circumstances, but by our own attachment to those circumstances. This realization brings a deep sense of freedom and joy. You may be wondering why I've shared this teaching with you, someone who has never meditated and doesn't plan to. But I believe that everyone can benefit from hearing the words, drop off body and mind. They remind us that we are not our thoughts or feelings. They are just visitors passing through our awareness, and that we are not our physical bodies. They are just vessels that we inhabit for a limited time. When we remember this, we can live more fully in the present moment and appreciate the beauty of life. We can also respond more skillfully to the challenges that arise because we know that they too will pass away like everything else. Now, I want to share another story about our teacher, Ru Qing, that illustrates the importance of not clinging to fixed ideas. Early in my spiritual journey, I studied under several teachers who stressed the need to eliminate all thoughts while meditating. At that time, I struggled intensely to quiet my mind, believing that thoughts were the enemy to overcome. When I met our teacher, Ru Qing, I continued to wrestle with thoughts, trying to push them away. However, our teacher noticed that I was making progress in my meditation. One day during a break in the meditation session, I asked him, "How can I get rid of these distracting thoughts?" He looked at me with a gentle smile and replied, "You're already beyond thoughts. It's your thinking that is distracting you." His words puzzled me, and I couldn't understand what he meant. So I went back to meditating, while ignoring the thoughts in my head. A few weeks passed, and I found myself becoming more absorbed in meditation. Thoughts still came and went, but instead of fighting them, I started to observe them without judgment. Eventually, the thoughts faded away completely, and I entered into a state of deep concentration. Suddenly, I heard our teacher's voice saying, "You're already beyond thoughts. It's your thinking that is distracting you." I realized that he had been hinting at a profound truth. We are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes thoughts. Once I understood this, my meditation practice deepened and became more effortless. I learned to embrace the thoughts as they arose, allowing them to flow through my awareness without resistance. I realize that it's not necessary to empty the mind of all thoughts to achieve enlightenment. Rather, we can learn to work with our thoughts and emotions, using them as tools to deepen our understanding and compassion. One day, one of our senior students approached our teacher, Ru Qing, and asked him why he had chosen to spend his life in a remote mountain monastery instead of traveling the world and sharing his teachings with a wider audience. The student believed that Ru Qing could have become famous and influential if he had been willing to promote himself. In response, Ru Qing poured tea for his student and said, "Do you think a cup of tea tastes better when it's served in a beautiful porcelain cup or in an ordinary one?" The student replied that it didn't matter, and that the taste of the tea depended only on the quality of the tea leaves. Ru Qing nodded and said, "Exactly. My task is to make good tea, but the vessel in which I serve it is up to others." Each person has their own preferences and limitations. Some may appreciate a simple earthenware cup, while others may prefer a delicate glass one. It doesn't matter to me. My job is just to make good tea and serve it with a peaceful mind. Then he added with a smile, "Besides, I love growing vegetables and flowers. How could I give up this beautiful garden?" If you have never sat down and meditated, it can be difficult to understand the difference between the ordinary mind and the meditative mind. Here are some ways to experience this difference. Close your eyes and pay attention to your breath. Notice the sensations of each breath as it flows in and out. Now turn your attention to your body. Notice the different sensations throughout your body, such as the feeling of your clothes on your skin, the weight of your body on the chair, and the sounds around you. As you continue to observe these sensations, notice any thoughts or emotions that arise, such as worries or memories. Simply acknowledge their presence without judgment and allow them to pass like clouds in the sky. By practicing this kind of meditation regularly, you can begin to cultivate a deeper connection to your inner self and the world around you. You may not be able to explain what you are experiencing, but you will feel more grounded, peaceful, and compassionate towards yourself and others. My teacher, Ru Qing, once taught us, when we understand that we have Buddha nature, we should also understand that all beings have Buddha nature. Therefore, we shouldn't discriminate between ourselves and others. He emphasized that we should treat every person with respect and care, regardless of their background or beliefs. When I reflect on my teacher's words, I am reminded of the importance of embracing all beings with an open heart. We should celebrate our similarities, while appreciating our differences and strive to create a world where everyone feels valued and respected. Time is not linear. Time is all time. Now time is all time. If time is all time, then why do we have this illusion of past, present, and future? Why do we feel that there is a beginning and an end? So many of us are busy planning our future. We're looking forward to something good around the corner. Maybe it's a vacation coming up, or something to look forward to in retirement. And maybe we have all these regrets about the past. We wish we could go back and do things differently. If time is all time, past, present, future, doesn't that mean that the vacation is here right now? Doesn't that mean that we've already experienced the future? In Zen Buddhism, they say that if you want to know where your mind will be at the end of your life, just look at your hands. Because whatever you holding in your hands right now is what you will have at the end of your life. If you're holding a rock, you're going to be holding a rock in your hands at the end of your life. If you're holding a cup of tea, you're going to be holding a cup of tea at the end of your life. If you're holding a lover close, you're going to be holding your lover at the end of your life. Whatever you holding in your hands right now is what you will have at the end of your life. The teacher said that, and then after he said that, a student asked him, "Well then what do you have in your hands, teacher? What are you holding right now?" And the teacher replied, "Nothing at all. Look closely and see what I'm holding." The student looked carefully into the teacher's hands, and they saw that the teacher was holding nothing. The teacher had no hands. One of my teachers used to tell a story about a samurai who went to visit a Zen master. The samurai said, "I am a great warrior. I have killed many people in battle. Teach me how to stop killing." And the master didn't say anything for a long time. After a while, the master got up, walked over to the window, and then turned and said to the samurai, "Do you still want to kill?" The samurai, confused, said, "Of course I don't want to kill. I came here to learn how to stop killing." The master said, "You want to stop doing something that you're not doing right now? Then there must be something wrong with your understanding when you are in the moment." when you are right here, right now. What are you doing? Aren't you just sitting in a room having a conversation with me? Aren't you just sitting here? Are you killing right now? The samurai thought about this and finally said, "No, I'm not killing right now." The master said, "That's right. You're not killing right now, so there's nothing to stop." You never stopped. Dogen had a profound experience that transformed his understanding of reality. He later called this experience Shinjin Datsuraku, the dropping off of body and mind. He wrote about it like this: when a person practices Zazen diligently day and night, body and mind are naturally dropped off, and one realizes one's true nature, the wonderful state of perfect peace. What has been said is not something to be sought after, it is something to be realized. It is to be realized in just sitting here, just as we are sitting here together now. When we think of an experience like that, we might think of it as something mystical or even magical. Like we entered a special state of consciousness, or we saw visions, or we felt connected to something greater than ourselves. But Dogen didn't have that kind of experience. His experience was very simple. He just noticed that what he had been seeking was never absent. What he had been looking for was right there all along. He wrote, "What I sought was body and mind. Where could I seek except in body and mind?" This is one of the simplest realizations, but it is also one of the deepest. It is the realization that we are already enlightened, or already perfect, just as we are. He had been searching for enlightenment for years, traveling to China and studying with different teachers. He meditated deeply and did his best to live a moral life. But he didn't realize that what he was seeking was right there all along. He didn't realize that he was already enlightened. He was already perfect, just as he was. What he needed was something to be found somewhere else, or in some other time, or in some other circumstances. It was here. It was within him all along. So often we think that we need something to make us happy or fulfilled. We need a partner, or a job, or certain living conditions, or certain people around us. But what if we already have what we need? What if we already are what we need? What if happiness, peace, and fulfillment are already within us? When Dogen had this realization, he was studying with his teacher, Jusuqing, and when he told his teacher about his experience, Juqing just nodded. There was no celebration, no congratulations. Juqing continued arranging flowers, arranging flowers, arranging flowers, arranging flowers. After he had been arranging flowers for some time, Dogen couldn't contain himself and he asked his teacher, "Don't you think what I told you is amazing?" Juqing looked at him and said, "I've been arranging flowers. Would you like to see them?" And Dogen says that he realized that Ruqing was showing him how to arrange his life, how to live it with the same simplicity and naturalness with which he arranged those flowers. There are many stories about Ruqing, and one of them tells about Ru. Qing walking out onto the frozen lake in the middle of winter and walking right through it, walking right through the ice. Some of the monks from the monastery saw this, and they ran out and they started shouting at Ruqing, "Aren't you afraid of dying? Don't you have anyone who cares about you? Don't you have family waiting for you? What are you doing?" But Ruqing just continued walking. And when he reached the center of the lake, he turned around and he looked at them and he said, "It's so strange, I am dead." Ruqing showed Dogen how to live. He showed Dogen how to sit in Zazen. He showed Dogen how to walk, how to talk, how to engage with life. It's like someone handed Dogen a paintbrush and then said, "Here's a blank canvas. Paint your masterpiece." And Dogen took the paintbrush and he painted for the rest of his life. And yet we do unhear much about Ruqing today, because the focus is on what Dogen taught. And Dogen taught not from books or scriptures or even from what he heard other teachers say. He taught from his experience. He taught from his life. And what he taught was based on this experience of Shinjin Datsuraku, this realization that he was already enlightened. We think that we need to go to special places, or that we need special teachers, or that we need to take special actions in order to change our lives, or to be happy, or to find peace. But the truth is that we already have what we need, already are what we need. We are already whole. You're already perfect, just as we are. So let me ask you this. What are you holding in your hands right now? What do you have in your hands? Dogen, a young monk from Japan, embarked on a journey to China in the 12th century in search of the true essence of Buddhism. After years of study and practice, he realized that the answer lay not in scriptures or rituals, but in the everyday act of sitting. This is a story about the power of simplicity. You can imagine Dagon, during those quiet years in China, sitting in the same meditation hall where countless monks had sat before him, gradually embodying this understanding of timeless practice. The seasons changed around him, bringing different weather and different challenges, but his practice remained constant. He wasn't there to accumulate merit or purify karma. He understood that sitting was not a means to an end, but the natural expression of awakened awareness. It was simply what he did because it was who he was. When Dogen finally returned to Japan in 1227, he brought with him not just new teachings, but a completely different way of being. The elaborate rituals and complex philosophies that had once seemed so important now appeared unnecessary, even counterproductive. What mattered was the simple practice of Zazen, the direct embodiment of enlightened awareness in every moment of daily life. Now, upon his return to Japan, he started teaching this idea of just sitting. And one can only imagine the kind of reactions this would have provoked among the Japanese monks. You see, Japan was not ready for such radical simplicity. The Buddhist establishment was comfortable with its elaborate hierarchies and complex doctrines. Dogen's teachings seemed to dismiss centuries of accumulated wisdom. His insistence that enlightenment was immediately available to anyone willing to drop off body and mind challenged the very foundations of traditional Buddhist practice. Japan in the 13th century was a land deeply rooted in religious culture. Buddhism had been an integral part of society for centuries, shaping people's beliefs and daily lives. Monasteries were not just places of worship, but centers of intellectual and artistic activity. They were often the patrons of arts like painting, poetry, and calligraphy. Think of those ancient temples with their vibrant colors, intricate carvings, and serene gardens. They were tangible expressions of faith and devotion. Within this context, Dogen's message was like a jolt of electricity in a world of well-established traditions. His emphasis on a direct, experiential approach to enlightenment was a stark contrast to the prevailing trends. Instead of the accumulation of merit through rituals or the study of scriptures, he proposed a radical shift in perspective. Enlightenment, according to Dogen, was not something to be attained in some distant future, but was accessible right here, right now. All one needed to do was to sit, to observe the natural state of mind. However, such a revolutionary idea did not resonate with everyone, especially with those who had dedicated their lives to the traditional practices. These individuals, well-versed in Buddhist texts and rituals, questioned Dogen's approach. To them, Dogen's emphasis on simplicity bordered on heresy. Why discard centuries of accumulated wisdom and disciplined practice? Wasn't enlightenment something to be worked towards, struggled for? Dogen's casual suggestion that it was readily available seemed too good to be true. The tension between tradition and innovation was palpable. Imagine the heated debates that must have taken place in those ancient halls. The clash of Dogen's unconventional ideas against the backdrop of deeply held beliefs and practices was a battle of perspectives, a struggle to redefine what it meant to be a Buddhist in a rapidly changing world. The criticism Dogen faced was not because his teaching was difficult to understand. Quite the opposite. His message was deceptively simple, even bordering on simplistic. In a culture that celebrated complexity and scholarship, the idea that enlightenment could be found in the simple act of sitting quietly seemed to diminish the importance of everything else. For monks who had spent decades studying sacred texts and performing intricate ceremonies, this must have come as a rude awakening. Their years of dedication and effort seemed to be overshadowed by Dogen's nonchalant approach. It was as if he were telling them that all their hard work was unnecessary, that the path they had been treading for so long was leading them astray. It must have been disheartening for Dogen, a man who had risked everything to bring back the essence of Buddhism from China. His intention was to share his experiences, to guide others towards enlightenment, but his very sincerity was twisted into a weapon against him. Dogen's early years back in Japan were marked by this tension between the profound simplicity of his realization and the complexity of the religious culture he was trying to reform. But amidst this storm of criticism, Dogen remained steadfast. He continued to teach Zazen, to guide those who were drawn to his simple, direct approach. He established a small temple outside Kyoto, far from the grandeur of the established monasteries. This retreat allowed him to focus on his practice and teaching without the distractions of the religious establishment. It was here that he welcomed students, not with elaborate rituals, but with a simple invitation to sit, to observe, to realize the truth within themselves. His approach was not a rejection of tradition, but a return to the source. A reminder that the essence of Buddhism lay in the teachings of the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, who had attained enlightenment under a tree while meditating. Dogen's teachings may have been simple, but they were revolutionary. He challenged the very core of Buddhist practice, questioning long-held beliefs and cherished traditions. He questioned the need for elaborate rituals and the value of centuries-old practices. In his view, the traditional rituals and practices were no longer serving their original purpose. They had become mere formalities, empty gestures that had lost their spiritual significance. Dogen was not content with perpetuating these rituals. He wanted to revive the spirit of Buddhism, to bring it back to its original form. Imagine the courage it must have taken to go against the grain, to challenge the very foundations of a religion that had shaped not just his personal beliefs, but the cultural landscape of Japan. Dogen's position was not that of a mere monk or a religious reformer. He was a visionary, someone who dared to question the status quo and to seek a more authentic way of practicing Buddhism. He taught that the ultimate reality was not something to be grasped intellectually or experienced mystically, but was to be realized directly in the present moment. This realization, according to Dogen, was not a distant goal, but the very essence of our being, was the natural state of mind that we all possessed, but had forgotten how to access. One of Dogen's most famous teachings, Just Sit, became a mantra for this approach. It was a call to simplicity, a reminder that the complexities of life should not overshadow the simplicity of our true nature. But this simplicity was not a naivete. It was a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, an insight that transcended intellectual comprehension. In Dogen's view, everything in the universe was already perfect, just as it was. There was no need for elaborate rituals or complex philosophical systems to improve or change it. All that was required was a shift in perspective, a recognition of the inherent perfection of the present moment. Despite the criticism and the skepticism, Dogen's teachings began to resonate with people from all walks of life. His message of simplicity and direct experience appealed to those who were disillusioned with the complexities of traditional religion. They found in Dogen's teachings a refreshing honesty, a directness that cut through the layers of ritual and dogma. Dogen's impact went beyond the realm of religion. His ideas influenced poets, painters, and scholars, people from diverse fields who were searching for authenticity and meaning in a rapidly changing world. His teachings transcended religious boundaries, appealing to anyone who was open to the possibility of a simpler, more direct way of living. Although Dogen's ideas were met with resistance from the established religious authorities, they found fertile ground among the common people. His small temple became a hub of activity as people from all walks of life came to learn from him. Dogen's influence spread, and soon he had disciples across Japan, each carrying the message of simplicity and direct experience. As Dogen's following grew, so did the controversy surrounding him. His unorthodox views and his growing influence threatened the established order. The religious establishment saw in Dogen a dangerous heretic who was challenging the very foundations of their authority. But Dogen remained undeterred. He continued to teach, to guide, and to inspire those who were drawn to his message. Dogen's legacy lived on, not just in his teachings, but in the lives of his disciples. They carried forward his message of simplicity and direct experience, adapting it to the changing times. Dogen's ideas became a beacon of hope in a world that often seems too complex, too chaotic, and too full of suffering. Today, Dogen's teachings are studied and practiced by millions of people around the world. His ideas have influenced not just Buddhism, but other spiritual and philosophical movements. The simplicity that once seemed revolutionary has become a source of strength and clarity for many. So remember Dogen, the monk who dared to question the conventions, who sought simplicity in a complex world. Remember his journey to China and his return to Japan with a profound realization. Remember his teachings of Zazen and the courage it took to share them. This is a story about the power of simplicity, the courage to follow one's path, and the enduring impact of a life well lived. It's a story that continues to resonate today, reminding us that sometimes the simplest path is the one that leads to enlightenment. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on any of our future videos. If you want to watch more stories like this one, click on the video shown on screen. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. In the heart of medieval Japan, amidst a cultural landscape dominated by courtly pursuits and spiritual quests, there emerged a monk named Dogen, born into a family that valued scholarship and official careers. Dogen's early life seemed destined to follow this path. However, his journey took an unexpected turn when he ventured out of Japan to China in search of Buddhist teachings. It was here that he encountered a form of Buddhism radically different from what he had known at home. A Buddhism that did not dwell in scriptures or temples, but lived and breathed in the everyday moments of ordinary life. This was the world of Zen. Upon his return to Japan, Dogen shared these revolutionary ideas, only to face ridicule and skepticism from both monks and scholars. They could not comprehend why someone would abandon traditional practices for what they saw as an impractical and even heretical way of life. But Dogen's students discovered something that his critics could not see: the profound peace that comes from practice without purpose, the deep satisfaction of activity that is complete in itself. In the meditation hall of Dogen's temple, there was no striving, no sense of spiritual ambition, no competitive comparison with other practitioners. There was simply the shared silence of beings who had learned to rest in their own true nature. This quality of effortless practice became the hallmark of Dogen's teaching. Unlike other forms of Buddhism that emphasized the difficulty of the spiritual path or the special qualifications required for enlightenment, Dogen taught that awakening was the most natural thing in the world. It required no special talent, no particular intelligence, no extraordinary dedication. It required only the willingness to sit quietly and allow the mind to settle into its natural state of clear awareness. As his reputation grew, Dogen attracted the attention of more influential patrons, including members of the warrior class who were drawn to the straightforward, no-nonsense quality of his teaching. These samurai, accustomed to the disciplines of martial training, found in Dogen's Zazen a practice that was both familiar and transformative. Like swordsmanship, Zazen required patience, precision, and the ability to act without hesitation. But unlike martial arts, Zazen had no opponent to defeat, no technique to master, no goal to achieve. In 1243, Dogen made the decision that would define the rest of his life. He left the capital region and moved to the remote mountains of Ekisan province, where he established a Haigitha temple of eternal peace. This move was not a retreat from the world, but a recognition that the depth of practice he wanted to establish required a setting that supported complete dedication to the way of Zazen. Haigi was designed according to Dogen's vision of what a true Zen monastery should be. Every aspect of the physical environment was arranged to support the practice of mindful awareness. The meditation hall was built to specific proportions that encouraged both alertness and relaxation. The gardens were designed to reflect the principles of natural harmony, without calling attention to themselves. Even the daily schedule was crafted to create a rhythm that supported the deepening of practice. Over the years, AIG became a beacon for those seeking an authentic approach to Buddhism, drawing individuals from all walks of life. Among them were artists, philosophers, and thinkers who found in Dogen's teachings a way of life that transcended religious boundaries. The renowned painter Sesshu, for instance, immersed himself in Zen practice, realizing that the essence of his art lay in the same principles that guided Dogen's philosophy. He saw in the purity of a simple brushstroke the reflection of Zen's emphasis on simplicity and direct experience. Similarly, Dogen's ideas resonated with the scholar Madari Norinaga, who sought to apply the principles of Zen to the study of traditional Japanese literature. He recognized in ancient poetry the echoes of a spontaneous, unadorned style that mirrored the Zen ideal. Dogen's influence extended beyond the realm of aesthetics, touching upon the very core of Japanese culture. His teachings on simplicity, self-reliance, and harmony found resonance with the nation as a whole, shaping a sense of national identity that would come to define Japan's place in the world. Zen principles became interwoven with the fabric of everyday life, influencing arts, literature, gardening, and even the tea ceremony. Dogen's legacy, however, was not without its challenges. His uncompromising views and unconventional methods often led to clashes with established religious and intellectual authorities. He was frequently criticized for his rejection of traditional Buddhist rituals, and his insistence on the importance of personal experience over scriptural learning. Yet despite these controversies, Dogen's influence continued to grow, laying the foundation for a new understanding of Buddhism in Japan. His life and work marked a turning point in the country's spiritual history, giving rise to a rich cultural legacy that has endured through the centuries. Throughout his life, Dogen remained steadfast in his commitment to sharing the practice of Zazen, tirelessly guiding his students towards awakening. He taught that the path to enlightenment was not a distant journey, but was hidden within the ordinary moments of daily life. But Dogen, the act of sitting in meditation, was not just a means to an end, but an end in itself. It was in the stillness and simplicity of Zazen that one could discover the true nature of reality and one's place within it. Dogen's approach to Zen challenged conventional notions of spirituality. He rejected the idea that enlightenment could only be achieved through extraordinary means or in a distant future. Instead, he emphasized the imminence of awakening, suggesting that it could be realized in the present moment. This revolutionary concept resonated with many who found in Dogen's teaching a refreshing departure from traditional religious norms. Dogen's philosophy was not confined to the walls of temples or the realm of religious discourse. It had a profound impact on various aspects of Japanese culture, influencing art, literature, and even the way tea was served. His emphasis on simplicity, balance, and harmony became a guiding principle for those seeking to capture the essence of beauty in their craft. The renowned tea master, Sen no Rikyu, for instance, incorporated Zen principles into the art of tea making, transforming it into a meditative experience that celebrated the transience of life and the beauty of simplicity. Likewise, Dogen's influence can be seen in the works of poets like Matsuo Bash, whose haiku captured the essence of Zen thought by finding enlightenment in the natural world. By highlighting the interconnectedness of all things, Dogen's ideas paved the way for a deeper appreciation of the natural world. He taught that the universe was not merely a collection of separate objects, but was a web of interdependence where everything was connected to everything else. This ecological perspective was centuries ahead of its time, emphasizing the importance of respecting and preserving the balance of nature. Dogen's message was one of simplicity, direct experience, and harmony with nature. His teachings continue to inspire individuals from various walks of life, transcending religious boundaries and offering a path to inner peace and a deeper connection with the world around us. In a world that often feels chaotic and overstimulated, Dogen's philosophy provides a timeless guide to finding clarity and balance in the midst of complexity. His legacy serves as a reminder of the transformative power of simplicity and the profound wisdom that can be found in the everyday moments of our lives. Dogen's journey began in the 13th century Japan, a time when Buddhism was deeply ingrained in society. But its original essence seemed to have been diluted by complex rituals and abstract philosophies. Upon returning from China, Dogen felt a growing unease. The traditional forms of Buddhism that flourished in Japan placed great emphasis on scriptures and elaborate rituals. While these practices held their own significance, Dogen yearned for a more authentic expression of the Buddha's teachings, a form of Buddhism that resonated with the simplicity and directness he had experienced in China. Dissatisfied with the prevailing religious landscape, Dogen decided to take a bold step. He embarked on a journey to the mountains of Ekisan province, where he founded the Monastery of Eternal Peace, a place that would become the epicenter of his revolutionary ideas. Amidst the serene surroundings of the monastery, Dogen began to share his vision of a Buddhism that was not confined to scriptures or rituals, but was deeply rooted in the practice of Zazen. Unlike the prevalent forms of Buddhism that often presented enlightenment as a distant goal to be reached through faith or good deeds, Dogen offered a path that was both more immediate and more accessible. He taught that awakening was not a reward for the devout, but an inherent quality of all beings, obscured by the habits of the mind rather than being a distant goal. Enlightenment was, according to Dogen, always present, always attainable. It was simply a matter of recognizing and embracing one's true nature. Dogen's approach to Buddhism was not just a departure from existing practices, but a radical reinterpretation of what it meant to follow the Buddha's path. He challenged the conventional view of enlightenment as something to be attained, and presented it instead as something to be realized. A shift in perspective that would profoundly impact the course of Buddhism in Japan. And so it was in this secluded sanctuary that Duggan shared his revolutionary ideas about Buddhism, attracting a small but dedicated following of monks and scholars who were drawn to his unconventional approach. Little did they know that they were stepping into a journey that would redefine the spiritual landscape of Japan forever. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to show your support. Your support keeps us motivated to bring more fascinating stories like this one to life. Thank you for watching.
The evening light slants across the monastery's most famous feature, a rectangular expanse of raked white gravel, punctuated by 15 carefully placed stones. To the untrained eye, it might appear to be simply an empty courtyard, with some rocks scattered across it. But as you sit on the wooden veranda that overlooks this space, breathing in the cool mountain air that carries the faint scent of pine, and the distant sound of water moving over stone, you begin to sense that you are looking at something far more profound than mere landscaping. This is a kairsensui, a dry landscape garden that speaks in the ancient language of stone and space, silence and suggestion. Here, in this seemingly simple arrangement, lies one of Zen Buddhism's most sophisticated teachings about the nature of reality, perception, and the mind that seeks to understand both. The 15 stones rest in their beds of raked gravel like islands in a sea of white, and yet they are so much more than stones, just as the space around them is so much more than emptiness. Let yourself settle into the rhythm of contemplating this garden, allowing your eyes to move slowly from stone to stone, from the carefully raked patterns in the gravel to the subtle shadows that shift as the light changes. There is no hurry here, no pressure to understand or interpret what you see. The garden has been waiting for centuries for each viewer to discover their own relationship with its silent teaching, and it will wait centuries more. The creation of such a garden is itself a meditation that can span months or even years. Imagine the monks who first conceived this particular arrangement, walking the grounds in the early morning mist, studying the way natural light falls across different areas, considering how the garden will look in each season, in each weather condition, at each time of day. They understood that they were not simply placing decorative objects, but creating a three-dimensional koan, a visual puzzle that would provoke insight in everyone who encountered it. The stones themselves were chosen with the kind of attention that most people reserve for selecting precious gems. Each one was examined not just for its size and shape, but for its character, the way it had been worn by water and weather, the subtle variations in its color and texture, the particular quality of presence it would bring to the composition. Some stones were rejected after months of consideration, not because they were flawed, but because they did not harmonize with the others in ways that would support the garden's deeper purpose. The largest stone in this garden, positioned slightly off-center in the composition, required 12 monks to move it into place. They worked in complete silence, communicating through subtle gestures and shared understanding of the task at hand. The stone was lifted, carried, positioned, and repositioned dozens of times over the course of several days. Each placement tested against the overall balance of the garden, each adjustment considered for its effect on the relationships between all 15 stones. You might wonder what made one position correct and another wrong. What criteria guided these minute adjustments? The answer lies not in any rule book or aesthetic theory, but in the monk's cultivated sensitivity to the principle of asymmetrical balance that governs all natural beauty. In nature, perfect symmetry is rare and often feels artificial when it does occur. True harmony emerges from the dynamic tension between elements that are related but not identical, balanced but not static, The raking of the gravel around the stones follows patterns that have been refined over centuries of practice. Each morning, before the first meditation period, a monk takes up the wooden rake and begins the slow, methodical process of creating perfect parallel lines in the white stone chips. The rake itself is a simple tool, a wooden handle attached to a head with evenly spaced teeth, but in the hands of someone who has mastered its use, it becomes an instrument of meditation. Watch the monk as he works, moving with the unhurried precision that characterizes all activities in the monastery. Each stroke of the rake is deliberate, each line perfectly parallel to the last. When he encounters one of the stones, he carefully rakes around it, creating concentric circles that suggest the ripples made by a stone dropped into still water. These circles flow into the straight lines of the larger pattern, creating a visual rhythm that somehow suggests both movement and perfect stillness. The physical act of raking is demanding in ways that are not immediately obvious. The monk must maintain a steady, crouching posture for extended periods, his back bent at precisely the right angle to create even pressure across the rake's teeth. His arms must move with consistent rhythm, never hurrying, never slowing, never allowing the lines to waver or the spacing to become irregular. His breathing must remain calm and steady, unaffected by the physical exertion or the concentration required for precision. But the deeper challenge is mental. The monk cannot allow his mind to wander to other concerns while he rakes. He cannot think about the morning's meditation, or the afternoon's work assignments, or his personal struggles with the rigors of monastic life. Each stroke of the rake requires complete presence, total attention to the task at hand. In this way, the daily raking becomes not just maintenance of the garden, but maintenance of the mind itself. The patterns created by the rake are not permanent decorations, but temporary expressions of the moment's perfect attention. By evening, the parallel lines will be disturbed by falling leaves, by the tracks of birds, by the subtle settling of the gravel itself. Tomorrow morning, the monk will rake them again, creating the same pattern with the same careful attention, knowing that this too will be temporary. That impermanence is built into the very nature of the practice. This acceptance of impermanence is central to the garden's teaching. The carefully raked patterns, which take hours to create, are not preserved or protected from disturbance. Instead, they are allowed to change and decay naturally, only to be renewed each day through the same patient practice. The monk who rakes the garden learns to invest complete effort in creating something that he knows will not last. And in doing so, he discovers a way of engaging with all of life's activities. The seasonal changes in the garden reveal different aspects of its teaching throughout the year. In spring, when the cherry trees that border the garden burst into bloom, the contrast between the organic exuberance of the flowers and the austere geometry of the stone arrangement creates a visual dialogue about nature and artifice, wildness and cultivation. The pink petals that fall onto the white gravel are not swept away immediately, but are allowed to remain for several days, their delicate beauty eventually fading and crumbling, adding their own teaching about the cycle of growth and decay. Summer brings a different quality of light, harsh and bright, that creates sharp shadows and makes the white gravel almost blindingly reflective during the hottest part of the day. The stones seem to absorb and hold the heat, radiating warmth even after the sun has moved on. In this season, the garden teaches about endurance, about the ability to remain centered and peaceful, even under the most intense conditions. Autumn transforms the garden yet again, as the maple trees that frame the space drop their red and gold leaves across the carefully raked gravel. The contrast between the geometric precision of the rake marks and the random scatter of the fallen leaves creates a visual representation of the relationship between human effort and natural process. The monks do not hurry to remove the leaves, but allow them to remain until they naturally decompose, understanding that the garden's teaching includes the acceptance of what cannot be controlled. Winter reveals the garden's most austere beauty when snow covers the gravel and outlines each stone in white. The raked patterns disappear entirely, and the 15 stones become dark interruptions in an expanse of unmarked whiteness. In this season, the garden teaches about essential form, about what remains when all decoration is stripped away. The relationships between the stones become even more apparent when everything else is simplified, and visitors often report that winter viewing reveals aspects of the composition that are invisible at other times of year. The number 15 itself carries significance in the garden's design, though its meaning unfolds gradually to those who spend time in contemplation. From any single viewing point, it is impossible to see all 15 stones simultaneously. One or more is always hidden behind the others, creating a visual puzzle that invites movement and multiple perspectives. This hidden stone represents the aspect of reality that always remains just beyond our complete understanding, the mystery that persists even when we think we have grasped the whole picture. Different viewing positions reveal different groupings and relationships among the stones. From the leftmost point on the veranda, certain stones align to create the suggestion of a mountain range. From the center, other stones group together in ways that might suggest islands or a family of animals. From the right side, yet another arrangement becomes apparent. The garden thus teaches that reality is not fixed, but depends upon the position and perspective of the observer. This shifting quality of the garden's appearance reflects one of Zen Buddhism's central insights about the nature of perception itself. What we see is not simply what is there, but the result of the interaction between what is there and the consciousness that observes it. The stones do not change, but our experience of them is constantly changing based on our position, the quality of light, our state of mind, and countless other factors that we are not even aware of. The monks who tend this garden have developed an intimate relationship with each of its stones over years of daily observation. They notice subtle changes in color as the light shifts throughout the day, variations in the shadows cast by each stone as the seasons progress, the way rain darkens the surfaces, or how frost creates temporary patterns on the gravel. This deep familiarity does not breed contempt or boredom, but rather an ever-deepening appreciation for the complexity and subtlety of what appears simple. Visitors often ask about the meaning of the garden, expecting to be told that the stones represent mountains, or islands, or some other specific symbolic content. But the monk's usual response is to suggest that the visitor sit quietly and observe, allowing the garden to reveal its own teaching. This is not evasiveness, but recognition that the garden's deepest instruction comes not through intellectual interpretation, but through direct experience of its effect on consciousness. The act of sustained observation, simply sitting and looking without trying to understand or categorize, gradually quiets the mind's habitual tendency to impose meaning and narrative on everything it encounters. As the mental chatter subsides, a different kind of awareness emerges, one that can appreciate the garden's beauty and harmony without needing to explain or justify the experience. This shift from analytical to contemplative awareness is itself one of the garden's primary teachings. In our ordinary consciousness, we are constantly interpreting, judging, comparing, and categorizing our experience. We see a stone and immediately begin to think about its geological history, its resemblance to other stones, its symbolic possibilities, its aesthetic value. The garden invites us to suspend this habitual mental activity and simply receive what is offered without the mediation of conceptual thinking. The silence that pervades the garden is not merely the absence of sound, but a positive quality that seems to emerge from the stones themselves. Even when birds sing in the surrounding trees, or the wind moves through the bamboo groves beyond the monastery walls, the garden maintains its essential quietude. This is the silence of perfect balance, the hush that falls when all elements are in their proper relationship to each other. Sitting in this silence, you might begin to understand why the garden has been preserved unchanged for centuries, why generation after generation of monks have found in its simple arrangement a source of endless fascination and instruction. The garden does not teach through words or concepts, but through the direct impact it has on consciousness. It creates a space where the mind can settle into a natural state of alert relaxation, where the artificial boundaries between subject and object, self and world, begin to dissolve. The maintenance of the garden requires not just the daily raking, but also the removal of weeds, the occasional replacement of gravel, the careful pruning of the surrounding vegetation to maintain the proper proportions and sight lines. Each of these tasks is performed with the same meditative attention given to the raking, transforming necessary maintenance into opportunities for spiritual practice. Even the viewing of the garden has been carefully considered. The wooden veranda where visitors sit is positioned at precisely the right height and distance to optimize the composition's visual impact. The planks are worn smooth by centuries of sitting observers, and their warm honey color provides a gentle frame for the stark black and white of the stones and gravel. The spacing between the veranda's support posts creates natural viewing frames, subtly directing attention to different aspects of the composition. As the evening light continues to fade, and the monastery prepares for the final meditation period of the day, the garden begins to reveal its nocturnal character. In the darkness, the white gravel seems to glow with its own inner light, while the stones become mysterious presences that seem to shift and move when observed peripherally. The careful raked patterns, so visible in daylight, disappear into shadow, leaving only the essential forms of the stones themselves. This transformation from day to night offers yet another teaching about the nature of perception and reality. The garden is simultaneously the same and completely different, unchanged in its essential structure, but transformed in its appearance and effect. The monks who have spent years observing these daily transformations understand that this is true not just of gardens, but of all phenomena, that everything is constantly changing while remaining essentially itself, that permanence and impermanence are not opposites, but two aspects of the same reality. The garden's influence extends far beyond its physical boundaries. Visitors who spend time in contemplation often report that the experience changes their perception of other spaces and relationships. The principles of asymmetrical balance, the appreciation of negative space, the recognition of how perspective shapes experience, these insights continue to inform their awareness long after they have left the monastery. The 15 stones continue their silent teaching through the night, holding their positions in the raked gravel like ancient masters in meditation, perfectly still yet somehow intensely alive. Tomorrow morning, the monk will take up his rake again, creating fresh patterns in the gravel, beginning another day of the patient practice that has continued unbroken for centuries. The stones will remain where they are, eternal witnesses to the flowing patterns of maintenance and decay, creation and dissolution, that define all existence. In the garden's perfect stillness, you can hear the deepest teaching of Zen Buddhism, that enlightenment is not something to be achieved, but something to be recognized, not a special state of consciousness, but the natural condition of awareness when it is not obscured by the seeking mind. The stones do not strive to be enlightened. They simply are what they are, completely and without reservation. In their perfect acceptance of their own nature, they offer a model for human awakening that is both utterly simple and infinitely profound. The sound of horses' hooves on stone echoes across the monastery courtyard as the sun reaches its zenith, announcing the arrival of visitors whose presence will transform the day's rhythm in subtle but profound ways. These are not ordinary pilgrims seeking spiritual guidance, but samurai warriors whose lives are defined by the sword, by codes of honor that demand readiness for death at any moment, by a world of violence and political intrigue that seems utterly foreign to the monastery's cultivated peace. Yet as these armored figures dismount from their horses and remove their weapons at the monastery gate, something remarkable begins to happen. The same men who can kill with lightning precision, who have mastered the art of war through decades of disciplined training, approach the monastery's threshold with the careful reverence of children entering a sacred space. Their heavy footsteps soften, their voices drop to whispers, and their eyes, so accustomed to scanning for danger, begin to adjust to the possibility of perfect safety. The relationship between the warrior class and Zen Buddhism is one of history's most fascinating paradoxes. These men, whose profession requires them to take life, find in the monastery's teachings about the nature of mind and reality something that their martial training has prepared them to understand. The discipline required for swordsmanship, the years of practice, the cultivation of mental clarity, the ability to act without hesitation in moments of crisis, creates a foundation upon which Zen practice can build. But today's visitors are not here for instruction in meditation or philosophical discourse. They have come for something even more refined, more subtle, and in its own way more transformative: the tea ceremony. In the small pavilion that overlooks the monastery's most secluded garden, they will participate in a ritual that distills the essence of Zen practice into the simple act of preparing, serving, and drinking tea. The tea master who will guide this ceremony is a monk who has spent decades perfecting not just the technical aspects of the ritual, but the quality of presence that transforms mere hospitality into spiritual practice. His movements as he prepares the tea space are like a slow dance, each gesture flowing naturally into the next, each placement of utensil or arrangement of flowers reflecting years of training in the subtle art of creating harmony through attention to detail. The tea pavilion itself is a masterpiece of understated elegance. The walls are made of translucent paper that filters the afternoon light into a soft, golden glow. The floor is covered with tatami mats whose clean, grassy scent mingles with the faint aroma of incense that has been burned here for decades. The ceiling is low enough to create intimacy, but high enough to prevent any sense of confinement. Every proportion has been calculated to create an atmosphere of calm refinement. As the samurai approach the pavilion, they must first purify themselves at a stone basin filled with clear mountain water. This is not merely a practical washing, but a symbolic cleansing, a physical action that represents the mental preparation required for the ceremony ahead. Each warrior cups the cold water in his hands, brings it to his lips, rinses his mouth, and washes his hands with the same careful attention he would give to cleaning his sword. The entrance to the tea pavilion is deliberately small, requiring even the most imposing warrior to crouch and enter with humility. This architectural feature, called a nijiraguchi, serves multiple purposes. It forces guests to slow down, to approach the tea space with the careful attention that the ceremony requires. It eliminates any sense of rank or hierarchy, as everyone must bow equally low to enter, and it creates a clear boundary between the ordinary world and the sacred space of the tea ceremony. Inside the pavilion, the guests take their places on the tatami mats in an arrangement that reflects not their social status, but the aesthetic requirements of the ceremony. The most honored position is closest to the takanoma, the alcove that holds a hanging scroll and a simple flower arrangement. But honor in the tea ceremony is not about power or wealth. It is about the guest's ability to appreciate the subtle beauty of the ritual and to participate in the creation of a shared moment of perfect harmony. The tea master begins his preparation with movements so slow and deliberate that they seem almost ceremonial. He warms the tea bowl with hot water, cleanses each utensil with precise strokes of a silk cloth, and measures the powdered green tea with a bamboo scoop that has been worn smooth by decades of use. Every action is performed with complete attention, as if the fate of the world depended on the perfect execution of each gesture. The samurai watch in fascination as the monk transforms the simple act of making tea into something approaching meditation. There is no conversation during the preparation, no casual remarks about the weather or the day's events. The only sounds are the whisper of the bamboo whisk against the tea bowl, the soft placement of utensils on the wooden tray, and the gentle bubbling of water in the iron kettle that hangs over the small charcoal fire. This silence is not empty, but full pregnant with the shared attention of everyone present, charged with the kind of focused awareness that the warriors recognize from their own training. In the sword schools, there is a moment of perfect stillness before the blade is drawn, a gathering of energy and intention that can determine the outcome of a duel. The tea ceremony cultivates this same quality of presence, but instead of channeling it toward combat, it directs it toward the creation of beauty and harmony. The water for the tea is heated to precisely the right temperature, not boiling, which would make the tea bitter, but hot enough to extract the full flavor of the powdered leaves. The tea master tests the water by listening to the sound it makes as it heats, recognizing the subtle difference between water that is too cool and water that has been heated to perfection. This ability to discern such fine distinctions through sound alone is another skill that the samurai can appreciate, trained as they are to detect the slightest variation in an opponent's breathing, or the barely audible whisper of a blade being drawn. When the water reaches the perfect temperature, the tea master adds it to the bowl containing the bright green powder. The first addition is small, just enough to create a paste that he mixes with the bamboo whisk, using a precise circular motion. The whisk itself is a work of art carved from a single piece of bamboo and split into dozens of fine tines that have been shaped and balanced to create the perfect tool for mixing tea. The whisking motion is hypnotic in its regularity, a gentle rhythm that seems to slow time itself. The tea master's wrist moves with the fluid precision of a master calligrapher, creating patterns in the thick green liquid that disappear and reform with each stroke. Gradually, he adds more water, adjusting the consistency until the tea reaches the perfect balance between thick and thin, bitter and sweet. The finished tea is a vivid green color, almost luminous in the soft light of the pavilion. Its surface is covered with a fine foam that speaks to the skill of the tea master and the quality of the tea itself. The aroma that rises from the bowl is complex and subtle, earthy, sweet, and slightly astringent, with undertones that hint at the mountain slopes where the tea plants grow. The tea master presents the bowl to the principal guest with both hands, turning it so that its most beautiful side faces the recipient. The guest receives the bowl with equal formality, bowing deeply before lifting it to his lips. The first sip is taken slowly, allowing the complex flavors to register fully on the palate. The taste is unlike anything in the warrior's ordinary experience, not the rough sake they drink in military camps, or the simple rice wine served at formal banquets, but something that seems to capture the essence of the mountain itself. The bitter edge of the tea is balanced by its natural sweetness, and the powdered leaves create a texture that is almost velvety on the tongue. But beyond the physical sensations, there is something else, a quality of alertness that comes not from stimulation, but from the deep relaxation that follows complete attention to the present moment. The samurai finds that his mind, usually occupied with strategy and the constant assessment of threats, becomes perfectly still and clear. As the tea bowl is passed from guest to guest, each participant becomes part of a ritual that is both ancient and immediate, both formal and intimate. The bowl itself becomes a kind of sacrament, connecting each person to the others through the shared experience of receiving the tea master's gift. There is no hurry, no sense that the ceremony should be completed quickly so that other activities can begin. Time seems to expand, creating space for the full appreciation of each moment. The conversation that eventually develops is unlike any that occurs in the outside world. There are no discussions of politics or war, no boasting about victories or complaints about defeats. Instead, the guests might comment on the beauty of the tea bowl, the subtle fragrance of the incense, or the way the afternoon light filters through the paper walls. These observations are not merely polite small talk, but expressions of genuine appreciation for the aesthetic details that make the ceremony a work of art. The samurai discover that their training in the martial arts has prepared them for this subtler form of discipline in unexpected ways. The same attention to detail that allows them to detect the slightest flaw in an opponent's technique enables them to appreciate the perfect balance of the tea bowl or the elegant simplicity of the flower arrangement. The mental clarity that serves them in combat allows them to be fully present to the ceremony's quiet beauty. But there is something more profound happening here than mere aesthetic appreciation. The tea ceremony is teaching these warriors a different way of being powerful, a strength that comes not from the ability to dominate others, but from the capacity to create beauty and harmony. In the gentle precision of the tea master's movements, they see a kind of mastery that is no less demanding than their own martial training, but is directed toward creation rather than destruction. The incense that burns throughout the ceremony adds another layer to the experience. The smoke rises in thin, wavering lines that seem to make the air itself visible, creating patterns that shift and change with the slightest movement of air. The scent is subtle and complex sandalwood, mixed with other fragrances that have been blended according to recipes passed down through generations of tea masters. This is not the heavy, cloying incense used in some religious ceremonies, but something so refined that it seems to enhance rather than overwhelm the other senses. The samurai, accustomed to the harsh smells of the battlefield smoke, blood, and sweat, find this delicate fragrance almost overwhelming in its gentleness. It speaks to a part of their nature that their harsh lives have rarely allowed them to explore, the capacity for appreciation of beauty for its own sake. As the ceremony continues, the warriors begin to understand why so many of their peers have become devotees of this practice. The tea ceremony offers them something that their martial training, for all its intensity and discipline, cannot provide: the experience of strength without aggression, of mastery without domination, of complete presence without the constant readiness for violence that defines their ordinary lives. The garden visible through the pavilion's windows becomes part of the ceremony's aesthetic. The carefully pruned trees, the arrangement of stones and moss, the small bridge that spans a stream so narrow it might be stepped across easily, all of these elements contribute to the sense of harmony that the ceremony seeks to create. The garden is not wild nature, but nature refined and perfected through human attention, just as the tea ceremony is not mere hospitality, but hospitality elevated to the level of spiritual practice. The samurai notice details that would normally escape their attention. The way the shadows of the bamboo leaves create patterns on the stone path, the sound of water trickling over rocks, the subtle gradations of green in the moss that covers the ground beneath the trees. Their eyes, trained to scan for danger and opportunity, learn to rest in contemplation of beauty that has no purpose beyond its own perfection. The tea bowls themselves are works of art, each one unique and chosen specifically for this ceremony. They are not perfectly symmetrical or flawlessly smooth, but bear the marks of the potter's hands and the unpredictable effects of the kiln's fire. These imperfections are not flaws, but evidence of the human involvement in their creation, reminders that true beauty comes not from mechanical perfection, but from the interaction between human intention and natural forces. The warriors handle these bowls with the same care they would give to a fine sword, recognizing in their irregular surfaces and subtle glazes the mark of genuine craftsmanship. They begin to understand that the tea ceremony is not just about drinking tea, but about creating a space where such objects can be properly appreciated, where the attention usually devoted to matters of life and death can be focused on the subtler beauties of artistic creation. As the afternoon progresses and the ceremony draws toward its close, the samurai experience a transformation that is both subtle and profound. The alertness that usually serves them in combat has been redirected toward the appreciation of beauty. The discipline that makes them formidable warriors has been applied to the creation of harmony, and the presence of mind that can mean the difference between life and death has been focused on the perfect execution of peaceful ritual. The tea master concludes the ceremony with the same deliberate attention that characterized its beginning. He cleanses each utensil with the careful precision of a surgeon, folds the silk cloth with the exactness of a military uniform, and arranges the implements with the same attention to detail that the warriors give to maintaining their weapons. Every action is performed as if it were the most important task in the world, and in the context of the ceremony, it is. The guests bow deeply to the tea master, expressing their gratitude not just for the tea, but for the opportunity to participate in the creation of such refined beauty. The ceremony has lasted perhaps 2 hours, but its effects will linger for days or even weeks, continuing to influence the warrior's perception of what constitutes true strength and genuine accomplishment. As they prepare to leave the pavilion, ducking once again through the small entrance that requires humility from even the most imposing warrior, the samurai carry with them a different understanding of power. They have learned that there is a strength in gentleness, a mastery in service, a victory in the creation of beauty that leaves no defeated enemy, but only the shared experience of harmony. The monastery's influence on these warriors extends far beyond the tea ceremony itself. Many will return to their estates and attempt to recreate something of what they have experienced, building their own tea pavilions, training with tea masters, and incorporating the ceremony's principles into their daily lives. Some will become serious students of the tea way, finding in its disciplines a peacetime application for the mental training that their martial practice has developed. But perhaps most importantly, they will carry with them the memory of perfect peace, the knowledge that such states of harmony are possible, and the understanding that true strength can be expressed through the creation of beauty, as well as through the wielding of weapons. In a world where violence and conflict are constant threats, the tea ceremony offers a vision of what human interaction can become when it is guided by the principles of respect, attention, and the appreciation of beauty. The sun begins to set as the samurai mount their horses and prepare to return to their world of castles and conflicts. But they carry with them the fragrance of incense, the taste of perfectly prepared tea, and the memory of movements so precise and graceful that they seem to transform the very air around them. The monastery's gate closes behind them, but its influence will continue to work in their lives, a gentle civilizing force that tempers the harsh necessities of their warrior existence with the knowledge that peace and beauty are always possible for those who have learned to create them. The tea master, alone now in his pavilion, begins the final cleaning that will prepare the space for tomorrow's ceremonies. His movements are unhurried, meditative, as he tends to each utensil, with the same care he showed during the ceremony itself. The pavilion returns to its state of perfect readiness, waiting for the next group of visitors, who will come seeking something they cannot find in the ordinary world, the experience of beauty so refined and harmony so complete that it transforms everyone who participates in its creation. As darkness falls over the monastery, the memory of the day's ceremony becomes part of the continuous stream of such moments that have occurred in this place for centuries. The tea master's practice, the warrior's temporary transformation, the shared creation of beauty, all of these become part of the monastery's accumulated wisdom, evidence of its power to civilize even the fiercest hearts, and to reveal the possibility of peace in the most unlikely circumstances.